It's 9 o'clock. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, full house. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes of Monday, August 8th.
I'll make the motion.
Tim's moved. I'll second. Don second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Miscellaneous motions. Move to authorize and direct the chairman to sign one tax abatement in an amount of $61.88. Have you seen anything like that, Bob?
No, it's the first time I've ever seen one quite like this.
United States Treasurer.
I know it's only $61.88, but it's something I've never seen before. Maybe something we need to ask them to come down later
Sure.
to explain what that's for.
We'll table the tax abatement.
So
And I think we'll go wait for Jeff. He's on the agenda.
Yeah, that's later.
Do we go through and do his motions?
he's 10-20. Just wait for him.
Wait for his motion.
Take care of it.
Okay. All right. That was somewhat simple. I lost my paper. Yeah, I got it. Get it correct. 9:05. We'll call that. Sheriff Tom Johnson, Goldberg Group Architects, Jail Project. Who would like to jump first?
I'll let Joe, I think.
Joe?
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning.
Morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Sorry for the early.
No, this is great. I was asked to address some questions associated with the financing, and I know we have a 10 o'clock and there's a lot of things on the agenda, but I do think it's important because there's been several different conversations and maybe a little bit of misunderstanding, and I just wanted to try to clarify it, if I may. What actually, first of all, congratulations on a successful election with respect to the jail. I have these real quick statutes that I want to pass out, and I'll go through them really quickly, if I may, because this is the proceedings under which we were successful in the election, and so it's important, I think, that we followed the law. So the first one is just this is how does the county finance a building, and it's highlighted, it's section KSA 19-15116 that says the county can finance a public building and issue general obligation bonds for the county if it's determined that it's over $300,000. We have a facility that's over $300,000, so we're issuing GO bonds. Now, the next one is general bond law. The general bond law under KSA 10-106, the first section provides that it's the municipality, the issuer, shall sell to the public. That's 10-106. It's the second handout. And that's A. That's section A. 10-106B provides, here are the steps that are necessary to issue debt to the general public. However, what I have highlighted in this section is the provisions of this section, meaning we don't have to go to a public offering. We still have to issue GO debt, but we don't have to go to a public offering if the provisions of this section relating to the public sale of the bonds shall not apply to secured solely and only by revenue. So if the bonds are secured solely and only by revenue, that's not what we have. We have a general obligation bond. And then I highlighted if the bond sale were less than $2 million. So these two statutes together require us to issue some debt to the public. There was a question as to, that I heard, voters didn't know what they were voting on. I brought the resolution, this is the ballot language, which is the next document, and I think it's pretty clear. We've had discussions associated with this. We've been before this commission, and this is on the resolution. If you turn to page 2, it reads, and I think it's important for the record to read into the minutes, it says, this is the proposition that the voters of Coffee County approve. It says, shall Coffee County issue general obligation bonds in amount not to exceed $20 million to pay for a portion of the approximately $30 million cost of the construction and equipping a facility on-site owned by the county to be used by a jail to house up to 92 inmates, the sheriff's office, and a prosecutor's office, and including limited renovations to the court area within the existing county courthouse, and construction of a secured enclosed link between the new facility and the existing county courthouse, together with all things necessary incidental thereto, all pursuant to KSA 10-101 et seq. and KSA 19-15-114 et seq., with a balance of the cost to be paid for from other available funds for the county. The language is here that says it is a general obligation bond. Now, I understand that there's some local lenders that want to actually buy some of this debt. The local lenders can participate. We actually have to do a public offering. That is what the statutes say. That is what section 10-106 provides. We have to issue debt to the public offering that was voted on, and that is what is required in law. Can you issue debt to take care of the local lenders? Absolutely. They can participate, they can syndicate, and if they're the low bidders, they come in at the low true interest cost, then they are awarded that bid. Now, there are a lot of issues that we still have to resolve. Is it going to be taxable? Is there going to be a portion? I think you received something from the municipal advisors over the weekend. Some commissioners received information from the municipal advisor over the weekend. The analysis is it all going to be taxable? Or is there going to be an element of tax exempt, a series of bonds? There's an element of timing. When are you going to issue debt? The issue of debt, if you issue debt right now and you get, your yield is 4%, but yet you're only earning 3%, you don't need that money right now, maybe it's not the right time to issue debt. There's a thing that's, negative arbitrage. Do we use all of the $10 million of contribution? When we were here one time, I was here before the commissioners, and I asked, what if the project comes in less than $30 million? Are we shrinking the amount of the bonds, or are we shrinking the amount of the contribution from the county? My understanding from that discussion is we're shrinking the amount of the contribution from the county. We're not shrinking the amount of the bond. So there is timing concerns that we have to worry about. We have to figure out the true value of the construction. So there are a lot of variables that are floating. The proposition just passed. You have to issue debt in a public offering, and the local lenders are able to buy their debt. Generally, you award the bid for that debt on the true interest cost, the lowest true interest cost. We don't know what the lowest true interest cost is going to be. We don't even know if it's going to be wholly taxable or partially tax exempt. We do have to worry about the federal inmates and how much the federal inmates, and we have to do an allocation of the spread. But long and short of it is, there are alternatives. There are alternatives that will be more costly to the county. But I can tell you the reason why the statutes, and I've said this multiple times, and I apologize for being repetitive, the reasons why the statutes are drafted in this manner is because, generally speaking, the market will drive down the interest cost, which is best for the community. It's not taking care of one local lender over the other. It's driving down the interest cost spread amongst the taxpayers of the county. In talking with the municipal advisor, Greg Barnberg, and he mentioned something to one of the lenders, if you do a private placement, you're looking at 50 to 75 basis points more than you would if you sold on the open market. That's coming from a municipal advisor. I can't advise on municipal, on financial stuff. I have to be very limited. But Greg Bardenberg advised that, and I agree with him, and that's what we typically have seen. There was a question about what if we have money to pay for it early? There are certain things that we could do to structure this bond to term it up. We could have term bonds that pay off a portion of the debt early. There are various things that we can structure within the bonds if there is excess surplus that the county treasurer and the commissioners want to apply to pay down this debt. There are things that we can actually do. There is an early call provision. The early call provision does cost you a little bit more money, as we've already talked about. There's this question about local banks are paying tax to our community and the bond people are not. I'm not certain what that necessarily means, but the effect of that is that if you sell debt, the community, on the public market, the community itself is going to be paying lower interest costs than you would. I don't know if the local lenders know that there could be a tax. We don't know what the rate's going to be, but I don't know if the local lenders know that it could be wholly taxable. It may not be 4%, it may be 5%. We don't know until we sell, and they don't know until they price. So we don't really, and we won't know that until we know, are we going to use the $10 million first? Are we going to use 5 of it? Are we going to sell next year? When is the right time to sell? So I have to answer questions that's kind of, I wanted to highlight, because there's an awful lot surrounding taking care of the local lenders versus selling to the public, and what's best for the community. I can tell you what was voted on is a general bond financing. Do you have to do all $20 million? Absolutely not. But you do have to do something that has to go to the general public. And the local lenders, if they want to syndicate and come in and be the lowest bidder, they get awarded the bid. Happy to answer questions.
Joe, it seems like there's a huge amount of interest from our local banks.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here to support local entities as much as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
And I know you fully understand that correspondence, but will they have the chance, will they know what the bond rate is so that if they want to participate at a lower rate, they can?
No, it's a sealed bid. It's sealed bids. If you look on section 10-106, it's a sealed bid process.
I figured. I have read it right.
Yeah, no, but
it is a sealed bid.
It's sealed bid.
No way to renegotiate with the local entities.
If you are selling, there is a workaround, just so you know. If we could sell less than $2 million, and we don't have to worry about the public sale, but we're selling $20 million at some point. Under that situation, it's a sealed bid. What it is, it's an electronic form. It's an electronic form. It's called parity, and the municipal advisor sets it out, markets the bond, and then on the date of sale, which is in a notice of sale, which we say this is the time that you have to submit your bid, they bid on what is called this parity platform, and then the lowest true interest cost is generally awarded. In every instance that I've ever done this, the lowest true interest cost is awarded it, subject to compliance with the bid terms that are included in the notice of sale. But yeah, I mean, no one really knows. That's what the market is driving down. I want this debt. I'm going to undercut it. That's why the market force is driving the interest rate down typically.
You know, I've sat here and thought, you know, and there's been some stuff brought up, and you know, we've got the $10 million, up to $10 million sitting, well, not sitting, available, that we've earmarked towards this. You know, I sit here and go, you know, if we got bonds October 1, it would be 13 months of interest on that $20 million if we used our $10 million first. That's going to save a lot of money if we use our $10 million first, and then bonds later. So that would be putting the $10 million up to $10 million on the front side, which is shutting the interest down on the bond side. Less interest is better in my eyes, but I don't know. I've had numerous phone calls from the local bank, wanting in on this, and they can still get in on this, but it's not as they are loaning the county the money. And so, and then I've heard some stuff about, well, they lease it back to the county. They lease the jail back to the county. I don't quite fully understand that. And so that's going over my head. So, and it was explained to me it's like a home loan, a building loan, that if you don't need it, you're not paying interest on it. It's money as you need. And then when they loan you the money, then the interest starts accruing. So, I don't know. I don't understand the lease thing back. I don't understand that.
I'll give you give me 2 minutes on this. I've been down here to talk about the Public Building Commission and the PBC, and if we didn't want to go to a general bond election, you can establish a Public Building Commission. We refer to it as a PBC. And then the PBC, which is basically the county, but it's a separate entity, the county leases, basically enters into a lease with the PBC. That lease itself generates revenue, and the facility's in pledge, so if there's ever a default, on the debt service, that loan, the lease payments, if you will, then technically the lenders can take over the facility. I've never seen that happen, because generally you have the ability to raise taxes if you necessarily need to pay for the debt. But in that structure, that is in this section 10106, that is when debt is secured solely and only by revenues, because what is being secured there is that lease payment. So that would fit within there. That's how, if we did this as a PVC and we did this solely and secured by revenues, we could easily enter into a lease. But we can't right this moment, because we have to do a general bond election. If we want to come in under $2 million and sell debt for less than $2 million, we could avoid this. But you're going to be doing another series of debt, which is going to cost more money. That's expensive to the county, and it's very complicated. And it pretty much goes against the grain of what was necessarily voted on.
Okay, on the 10 million, could we use the 10 million on construction, basically your construction loan part, to get it started? And then after we've used the 10 million, pick up and then do the bond?
Absolutely, and that's probably what we would recommend. The risk that you have is that the interest rate goes up. So, but that is typically what you want to do, is you want to make certain you get a good price, and I would let Mr. Goldberg visit about this, but you get a good price on the facility, you figure out how much you're going to contribute. We can issue up to 20 million. Like we said, maybe comes in at 29 million, then are we taking 9 million of the capital contribution, or the cash contribution, or are we issuing $19 million of debt? That's the question. What I think the municipal advisor is going to say is, you use your money. Let's get geared up. Let's get ready. If there's an opportunity to issue debt if the rate goes to a level that you feel and he feels comfortable, you issue that debt at that point. It may be that you've gone through $5 or $7 million, not all of the 10 million, but it's in that point. If it goes taxable, I have to be a little bit technical here, and I apologize, but if it's a tax-exempt situation, there are spend-down limits from the federal government that says you actually have to spend this. There's a 6-month period, a 1-year period, an 18-month period, it's 6 months, 18 months, and 2 years. If you don't spend that money, then you're actually having to pay rebate, which is, you don't want to get into a situation where you're paying rebate. Most of the time, you issue debt, it goes into the project fund, and you're paying that project, you're paying off those construction costs through that debt. But if it's a tax-exempt situation, which we don't know, we have spend-down requirements. And so we want to be in a situation where we utilize at least a good portion of the county's contribution for this debt on the early side, unless the rate drops tremendously. I can tell you, we just issued debt in the last three weeks. We've had anywhere from 3.01% to 3.3% on a tax-exempt, basically AAA, maybe AA plus. We have not had this debt rated. I think the municipal advisor will get it rated, but you're looking on a tax-exempt situation right now, today, a little over 3%. If it's taxable, it's going to be a little bit higher. If you take it to the lender, I don't know what the proposing, but I'm telling you, you have to issue some form to the public, and we would utilize that $10 million on the early side if we could, because it's saving interest.
Joe, talk to me about the IRS 10% rule and the assignment of the $10 million to the portion of the project that then will drive down
Yeah.
taxable versus tax-exempt.
So we want to try to get this in a tax-exempt situation. And how you do it, there's two variables in this financing in order to get it tax-exempt. Generally, what we worry about is we take the number of beds that are going to be allocated to the federal inmate, and we spread it amongst the entirety, and we figure out how much of this financing, this $20 million, is going to be attributed to that portion of the facility for the federal inmates. In this instance, and then what we call, there's a 10% bad money, so you can have 10% that goes that direction. But in this instance, what is even, and if you meet those requirements, then you get a tax-exempt financing. In this instance, what is even better, which needs to go fully to the analysis, is you have $10 million that doesn't even count towards that. We don't even have to worry about that. So we think we could get it on a tax-exempt issue in the entirety. My tax guys will let me know. But if that's in fact the case, you can't just issue debt and hold on to it. You're spending it. So now you're saying, I'm spending my money. Are we spending the $10 million, or are we spending the project fund from the bonds? We're saying spend that project fund from the bonds, because we don't want to get into a rebate, having to pay back some interest to the government. So, does that?
Clear as mud.
I mean, there's a lot. My point is, there's a lot of variables. There are a lot of variables that will go into the analysis in order to structure this issue. But I try to say in these three documents, this is why we ended up where we ended up, which is going to a public offering. And the local lenders, if they come in and low bid, they actually get awarded.
I just don't want to run into an issue with the taxable, non-taxable deal with the sheriff, with the federal beds, that we get in trouble. And I think there was talk about going all taxable.
There was.
That way we didn't have to worry about, we can only have X amount of these guys and X amount of these guys.
The comfort that you'll get is, if we say it's tax exempt and we're wrong, then you come after us. That's what my bond opinion provides. We say that this is tax exempt, and if the IRS comes in and says, no, it's not, and we've mistaken, then we're doing the remediation for paying that interest, and then that interest starts as a taxable rate from the date of issuance. So we have to do our work. We have to do our legwork. We have to work with the sheriff and Mr. Goldberg, and say how many of these beds are truly going to be allocated, not necessarily used, but allocated to the federal inmates. And then my tax guys do their calculation and computation to figure out, oh yeah, this is tax exempt or exempt.
Normally, how much difference there is for the interest rate between non-tax and tax? A tenth of 1%, 2/10 of 1%?
No, you're looking at...
Enough to be significant.
It is. It is.
I figure it would.
Yeah, and we're trying to get it as low as we possibly can. The early call provision, that pushes it up. But we could term it up and not have early calls. I mean, this is more, but we could have term bonds, so if there is surplus, you could pay off a series of those bonds, one of those bond certificates early. I don't think, and I'd let the county treasurer, I don't think we're going to have the ability. I mean, we visited, and I don't want to speak for Richard, but it may be a little bit early. We may come in at maybe 10 years, but I think we talked about what if we were able to pay this off at 9 years or 8 years? Well, yeah, a loan would do better. You would have the better under a loan structure, but we don't have that luxury at this point. We don't. So, I don't know what else I could tell you. I think what we would want to do, and I let Mr. Goldberg come up, and they need to talk about the draws and why we probably will utilize some of that $10 million cash contribution early on. But at some point, we're going to gear up. I'm going to be down here with a notice of sale, which is going to comply with the terms of Section 10106, and it's going to be a sealed bid process.
talk about that banks still can purchase the bonds that the winning bidder underwriter will issue.
Yeah, let's say Baird is usually a big buyer. First Tennessee Bank is usually, they buy quite a bit of debt in Kansas. If they end up buying, if they are the winning bid under the true interest cost, then they can actually purchase from that underwriter and own that debt. So there's ways to get there. There's ways for them to get there. They can actually participate if they know that there's going to be a syndicate. We see syndicates all the time where, you know, there's a lead. Country Club Bank is going to be the lead, and they're going to participate with their bid. They'll say, we're going to take, you know, we'll buy 25% if we win. If you win, we'll buy 25%. So there's ways to get there. But it's dealing with the lowest bidder. That drives down the market for us, which benefits the community because there's less interest costs.
I don't even know what a good question is, Joe. If the local banks are the low bidder,
Uh-huh.
and if the funds are available, can we pay them off in 7 years?
No.
They still gotta go to 10.5.
We're dealing with bonds that are sitting out there because,
I figured that.
you know, there may be, if they buy it all, if they buy,
They can pay it down, there's just gonna be a penalty.
we could have early call premiums, you could have early calls, you could have, you know, we could structure it in a way. We could amend it, because if it's a small group of investors, we can amend the document. We could do an amendment to the document, take it to the AG, have it approved, as long as all bond owners approve. So if it's limited to 3 or 4 local banks, and we want to make that amendment, they all agree to it,
So there'd be a potential for that.
absolutely.
There's no, if funds are available, there's no reason to pay any more interest than we have to.
That's right.
Down the road. That's what happened with MT, you know, we paid them off a year earlier.
Yeah.
Should have paid them off 2 years earlier, because it saved $60,000 that 1 year. So there's a huge initiative to pay off early if we can.
Yeah,
If we
absolutely.
if we can negotiate that.
Yeah, and what happens generally in a public offering, it goes to let's say Baird buys it, and then they have their buyers lined up. They're going to send it off in the secondary market, and next thing you know, you can't get 100% of the bond owners to agree to an amendment for an early provision. That's what typically happens, or they send it to a retirement plan. It's part of the New York school pension plan or something like that. So then you have really problems in trying to get consent to modify the document.
Is it possible to issue bonds and have a local loan?
Issue bonds and have a local.
The actual wording was up to
Yeah.
$20 million.
Yeah.
But if we stay around $1.5 million, $2 million, and then loan out, borrow the rest on the lease option.
You could do that. You could enter into something similar to that. It's going to be basically double the cost. I mean, you're doubling your cost of issuance because it's 2 issues. But in doing that, and we have time, because we're going to have $10 million to be able to use. We're going to have to set up a public building commission. And we need to do so for the county anyway, because of maybe some hospital financing that we want maybe consider. But you need to set up a public building commission. It'll take you 90 to 120 days.
But those costs wouldn't be $1 million. That increased cost.
Oh, no, it's not, no, it's not $1 million. I mean, you're talking a couple $100,000.
Right.
What else? Was I able to answer questions? I'm here to respond in any possible way. I tried to outline what is the law, and that's what we did. That's how, and I can tell you as your bond attorney, we're going to comply with the law.
So we could split this. We could do 10 in the bond and 10 at local banks. Or we could do this, we could split it, the way I'm understanding, we could split this however we want to. But some of it has to go to a bond.
Some of it has to go to bond. That's it. That's exactly right. The issue that you're going to have is the language in the proposition, shall Coffee County issue general obligation bonds up to, in an amount not to exceed $20 million. So you have some flexibility there. But understand, the way you're going to benefit the community best is to make it, the residents of the county, is to get your interest costs as low as possible, typically speaking. Now, there is some flexibility when you have that early payment provision in a lease. You can do that, and we can negotiate, and there's value to that. There's absolute value to that.
Is this something that needs to go back to the ad hoc committee? Tom, anything towards that?
What are you trying to take back to that?
The split of maybe partial local banks and partial bonds.
I'm just gonna say this, Wade, you better be listening to what's going on, because I'm not gonna be here. I am here to represent the citizens of Coffee County. I'm not here to represent the banks. And to me, if the citizens can get a better deal, then the banks are gonna get the same, get a better deal too, because they're citizens as well. So the banks, we have maybe 50 employees through all the banks. We can benefit them, or we can benefit the other 8,000 citizens of Coffee County, and I'm here for the citizens, so, I mean, but if there's some way we can work it out where the bank could be a part of it, I'm all for it. So, that's just where I'm at.
As I mentioned, Commissioner, that, you know, the law in Kansas is set up in a way in order for the market to drive down that deal. The banks also, and I'm off topic just for a little bit, but the federal government also said, hey, listen, how do we let small communities get access to funds? So they have something called the bank qualified. So the bank has an incentive to buy that debt, and it's cheaper for the issuer. The issue in this case is, and it's limited to $10 million. So if we did split it, you know, we would make certain that it's $10 million. But that's not the analysis. The analysis is, are you going to issue any other debt within that year? And the answer in your expectation would be, absolutely. We have another $10 million of debt. So this is not going to be bank qualified. Off topic, but there are I'm just trying to say there's a lot of variables that we will analyze as best we possibly can. But Kansas law and almost all other law, when they have a sealed bid provision, is the reason is it typically drives down that interest rate, and that is beneficial to the community as a whole.
Competition.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
That's all it is, and you can't get anything, and it's sealed because of that. You know, you can't have it cahoots. You know, I mean, you come in with your best bid. We're going to award on the true interest cost, the lowest true interest cost. So, I've taken way too much time. I know you have other things.
No, I have no idea where the banks would be on the position of the interest rate. They say we issue $10 million in bonds and $10 million to the banks. And the bonds come in at 3%.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if the banks don't want to meet that on the other 10? Do we go back out? But we want to get the lowest rate we can. And I have no idea where the banks are at.
Then you're basically doing three issues. I mean, you're gearing up for one, for the public, you're gearing up for a lease purchase. The lease purchase fails, but we've prepared everything, and the next thing you know, now you're going out to the public. And who knows where that interest rate's going to be?
Yeah,
no one knows until we're in the market. So.
I'd like to answer the question that you asked about the ad hoc committee. I don't think the ad hoc committee should make this decision. This is a commissioner's decision to make when it comes to financing and who's going to pay money.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't know if they'd be.
That's my personal opinion.
Is there, and it don't sound like there is, but is there a way that, you already assured that the local banks have the opportunity? I mean, there's nothing that we can do to guarantee that they have the opportunity, right?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, unless we enter into, we split this, and then you enter into a lease purchase.
But can the local banks go get with some of the bigger guys and start
Absolutely.
making agreements ahead of time?
Absolutely. I represent Lenexa. Lenexa has Commerce Bank and the mayor works for Commerce Bank. Whenever I'm worried doing the issue for Lenexa, Kansas, and there's any issue, which we're just issuing right now, when they open up that bid, we have to look at this syndicate, and we see lists of participants. There's a lead underwriter, and then there's participants. So you gotta get with the one that you think is going to win, but you don't know. We don't know until the bids are open. And somebody needing to place this debt really fast, because they have obligations with the New York school pension fund. So they may come in at a real low bid, but anyway. That's an awful lot. I apologize. I just wanted to make clarity. I'm happy to answer questions. Yeah.
I'm not here for the banks, I'm here talking for our public. Here's basically what we're looking at. Rough ideas, these are pretty close, not exact, I don't know how it's gonna wind up. When is 3% less than 4, or 3% more than 4.5? When you're paying on a bond. You borrow on your house, you have, granted, we can stretch out, 20 years is what they are, but if we paid off at 10.5, you are paying off principal as you make payment. So even though it's a higher interest rate, you're paying less in interest on the end. The bond, you're guaranteed to have to pay 3% on $20 million for 10 years. So that's why they buy the bonds. I know I'm going to collect 3%. So that's $26.6 million, roughly $25 million. If this is your house, which way are you going to go? I understand the rate's higher, but am I not saving the county money?
$1.5 million.
You're paying principal, by the way. You're paying in A, you're paying principal and interest. You are.
Right, but did I not loan out $20 million worth of bonds? Did those people want to collect their 3% if that's what the going rate is?
Richard, if all the variables are the same, and the only variable is the interest rate, and it's cheaper in A, I don't know why A is higher than B.
How much money do I have to pay in interest in year 10? How much are bond people collecting in year 10?
You're paying level debt, principal and interest over 10.5 years. You would be doing the same thing in B.
I'm paying 3% though, in $20 million.
But you're paying 4.5% on $20 million.
But this is the point is, I have the information from Greg that says I just add those up. That's what I'm paying. That's what I came up with. So even if you paid it off in 10 years, 10.5 years, that's what I'm paying. That's what he told me.
As I said, I'm not the municipal advisor, but I'm looking at the variables right here, and the only variable is A has a cheaper interest rate. There's no reason why A should be higher than B.
To me, it's all favorite work.
Exactly.
This
Well,
needs
the
to be
thing-
reversed. It needs to be reversed.
But if you bought $20 million worth of bonds, how much money do you expect to collect in year 10?
That's 4.5%, you're gonna be
Nope.
paying less money against interest, or principal. You're, at 4.5, more money's gonna be going
How?
against
The
interest.
issue is this
And
one you're
less,
paying.
and less deduction on the principal side. To me, that's backwards.
That's what you think. But trust me, how much money is being paid out for dividend interest in year 10 on $20 million? Are we not paying out $600,000? 3% of $20 million. Is that not what I issued? $20 million in bonds?
Or you issue $20 million in a lease, and you issue $20 million at least at 4.5%. You're issuing $20 million.
Correct.
And the only variable is a lower interest rate on A. It would, in my mind, and again, I'm not a municipal advisor.
Well, the
I'm not-
first
How much
3%, only 600 is gonna go towards interest,
How much interest do I pay in year 1?
600,000.
2?
Or
600,000.
whatever falls out.
600,000.
But you're also
The bond
decreasing
people-
the bond by, you're also decreasing the bond. If you're paying 3%, you're decreasing the bond by a larger amount than you are in 4.5.
How much money am I paying the people that own the bond? 3% of $20 million. That's why you don't have an early call provision. They know they're going to collect $600,000 per year through 10 years. 10 years at $600,000 is how much? $6 million. Plus the $20 million I borrowed. $26 million. Add on an extra half plus some fees, you get 26.6.
So you're saying that the interest is just on the total amount the whole time of the bond?
That's what bonds do. The back end, the other 9.5 years, that's where, if we can't pay it off, that's where they save money on this one. Because this one winds up being, after 20 years, like $30 million, $31 million. This is only 27.5. The last half is where you're collecting all the bonus money. But in 10.5 years, if that's what your guys' plan is, to pay this off early, this one makes more sense than the other.
In year one, it's 20 million off of 4.5, so that's what, 850,000 off of, versus $600,000? Are you not paying that same amount over that 10.5, that 850,000? Is it not the same? Like I said, I think all the variables the same. You're looking at 600 versus 850. But again, I need to defer to those guys.
Am I wrong in how the bonds work?
Yeah, I think it's,
We need Greg Barnberg down here, honestly, but I can't, and that doesn't make sense to me.
We've got a lot to...
Yeah.
And I think Goldberg's got some stuff we'll have to...
because at 4.5, you're paying $900,000 worth of interest a year, but you're paying $600,000 worth of interest
Right.
on 3%. So aggregately, you would pay times 10.5.
But this one's a mortgage.
Yeah, but what he's saying is
Mortgage is different than a
the
bond.
amount that they.
You'll pay $9,450,000.
Joe, we could go 10,
You won't, because it's not the same amount of interest every year.
I mean, there's a possibility to go 10, 10, 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we can set up a PVC and enter into a lease purchase, if that's what you, if that's that's a possibility. Yeah.
Bond isn't that worth it. Because I'm paying $600,000 a year.
Clear as mud.
You know, it would be important to get the municipal advisor down here and have a, I have limits as to what I can talk about.
Right.
And we need to get him, because he's going to help structure this deal. Is that all right? Anything else?
You want to talk about the April meeting when you were here, when all the ground rules were laid out?
Yeah. It may be important just to maybe reset something, because when I was telling Wade, we were visiting about this, I think last week, and when I was here in April, there was a discussion. I've said, hey, listen, you can do a lease purchase. You can. You have to establish a PVC. You have to establish a PVC, and then you enter into a lease with the PVC. We talked about that. You don't have to take it to the voters on a PVC. It fits within the statute. It's solely revenue. So I said, hey, you could do that. And I don't know if you remember, I said, if you take it to the voters and it fails, it's politically sensitive. You still can build it, but you're going to be building under a lease purchase, and it's going against the grain of the voters. We're taking it to the voters. I said, what you could do, I don't know if you remember this, I said, what you could do is you could take it to the voters on an advisory election, but you can't take it on August 2nd, because you can't take an advisory election on the primary general. No, we're taking the voters on August 2nd. That was the direction from this commission. That is what we talked about. I visited with Wade. I said, hey, can I find the meetings? He said, they're on YouTube. That is what I articulated in April. So there was an option. But you wanted to take it to the voters, which is what we did, and it passed.
And at that time, we could have used the local banks before it got
Absolutely.
to the election.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's when that should have been talked about.
No, in some cases, you got shut after the horse got out.
Yeah, but, we'll do I'm not here to go against anybody. I'm here to help the county as best I possibly can, structure in a way that is beneficial to the county, to the commissioners and to the citizens.
To the point you're here to lead some of it.
Yeah, hopefully with other advisors, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be here for other questions.
I'm sure there'll be many. Larry, we got to roll till 10 o'clock, and then we got to break. So we got to cram as much as we can until 10, and then we got to break for a little while to do the canvas. then we can come back and discuss more, but we have to start at 10 o'clock.
Okay. So let's see how far we can get.
For that on the bottom.
Here you go, Laura, I passed it on down. Thank you, Larry.
Can I have one more?
Those are even small, even with my glasses on, small.
All right, quickly. We have a schedule of values we're starting with. And this is a worst-case scenario. This assumes you're going to spend $30 million. Okay, hopefully we won't. Although I'm going to tell you that we just bid a similar project in eastern Missouri, and the son of a gun came in at $607 a square foot, exactly what I have here.
Larry, what town was that, can I ask?
Sure, Perryville, Perry County. Now, what I've got is scheduled everything that we have discussed. In other words, you've got your hard costs for construction, then you've got your soft costs, which are engineering fees, site testing, FF&E, which is your non-fixed furnishings and equipment. You've got contingency built in and so forth, and all of this has been calculated based on our experience across all the years we've been doing this, and you can see that. The fact is you've got your law enforcement center, which is your new construction, and you've got your courthouse renovations. And I sent you all an amortization table last week that I then apologized for because I was thinking about this and I completely forgot about this, which we cannot do until the law enforcement center is done and the sheriff, the prosecutor, and obviously detainees can be relocated to the new facility. All right, so what that did is it created two silos, but it extended the payout from 22 or 23 months to 28 months. There's a little bit of overlap in mobilization we can save time on, but it basically extended it by 5 or 6 months, and rightly so. If you go to the next page, interestingly enough, and you look at the graph, you see two silos. You see kind of a bell-shaped curve for your main construction, and then you see another smaller bell-shaped curve for the renovation, which is about $3.5 million out of the $30 million. All right. Then finally, you get to the last page where we bring it all together with some notable benchmarks from payment number 1 to payment number 28. Now, I want to make sure you all know that our fees reflect a $40,000 credit back to the county. $15,000 was set forth in our feasibility study. And $25,000 we offered up as a credit back for having Greg Varenberg as your uni advisor rather than myself, because I wasn't comfortable with a public bond sale. So those are in there. The other stuff that's in there are our covering of all the engineering, our covering of acoustical, lighting, just all of it, and procedures and policy, post orders, training in the new facility, working with the sheriff,
is undersheriff and command staff on all of that stuff. We've never done a jail where we haven't assisted in that regard, and all of that is included. Also included is specifying and designing all of the fixtures and furnishings, ranging from 911 to smoke masks, mattresses, shower curtains, 1,000 things that go into opening a new facility.
So with this target date, Larry, you're looking at December 24 completion.
Yes, sir. In other words, I'm assuming you're gonna get us started in beginning of September.
Well, I think the important thing was, for me, in which we spoke, what was that last, I don't remember what day it was.
Yeah.
You know, we spoke looking for a timeline of funds, you know, so either for the interest and for having the money available to us on the 10 million.
Well, based on this, Jesse, that will carry you into month 13.
Yeah, month 13.
Yes, sir. And it's a little bit less, it's about 9.57, but the point is, if Angie schedules a little bit more, rounds up, or what have you, you'll round it out really close to 10.
Boy, there's a lot of work to do.
There is a lot of work. Now, let me go on real quickly, and this may be part of the discussion that we want to save till we can reconvene later today, and that is construction procurement. My recommendation will be construction management, and there's lots of reasons why. And I am buried right now in a major project up in Sioux City, which had open general construction, and I'd like to recommend that we not pursue that approach, and the reasons why. So that can be something that we can discuss a little later on.
Put that one more time.
Yeah.
Okay.
In
There's
redneck.
there's three ways to get this thing built.
Okay.
One is design build.
Okay.
Where you have architects teamed up with contractors. We're beyond that point already. But the second is just open competitive bid. I do a set of plans and specs, you throw it out in the marketplace, and you let anybody belly up to the bar that wants to. The risk there is that you get a low bid from somebody who ends up being less qualified to do a project of this specialization and complexity, and you can wind up in a real world of hurt in today's market more than ever because of the lack of skilled labor all over the place. The third way is construction management, and to us it gives you the best of both worlds. You can look at and compare CMs on the basis of their comparative qualifications, and they'll submit a fee, okay, usually somewhere around 3.5% to 4.5%. But that's not the deciding factor. To me, the deciding factor is their prior successful experience in building these types of buildings.
So you're saying 3.5% to 4% of the total cost?
Of the total cost, yeah.
Be $1.2 million.
Now, they'd be bidding on it, correct?
Yeah, they'll bid on it, but you can compare their qualifications, Tim, so that if XYZ is up against ABC contractors, and XYZ's experience has been very successful in keeping a good, tightly run ship saving you money and so forth, the difference between their fee perhaps and ABC's fee might really evaporate over the course of time. And, but understand, they're going to solicit multiple bids from all the parts of the project to be constructed. You with me? In other words, that CM, with our help, will solicit bids for concrete and steel and cabinetry and carpet and paint and detention equipment and so forth. And we will have the opportunity to help them evaluate those bids. And the fact is, let's say, as in the case for us with Lynn County, you've heard me talk about that we ended up rebidding that job 3 or 4 times because we couldn't get an electrical bid. One of the things that made that possible was that we had a CM so they could identify and isolate the fact that it was the electrical bid holding us back. Everything else had come in pretty well, and those bids could be evaluated and decided upon while we rebid the thing electrically. And so those are the types of prerogatives and freedoms that you enjoy using a CM approach versus a general contractor who you would have had to discard all the bids and rebid the whole thing all over again.
So the CM, you're limited to how many people can bid on that.
You're not limiting it, you're going out and getting everybody you can, and then you're analyzing their bid and their credentials,
Correct,
right?
correct.
If they're a 1-star or a 5-star.
That's exactly right. We have so much experience in Kansas with over the last number of years that I can tell you there's some CMs that if this project were a $5 or $10 million project, we might think differently about them. But being a $30 million project, we can tell you they're just good people. They just don't have the capacity to do a project like this.
How was Miami County done with the
Here's
CM?
CM. So with CM, Lynn County was CM,
Is the CM's fees part of this 30 million? Or
Yes.
is that above and
yeah,
beyond?
no, it's part of the 30.
It's part of
No.
that, okay.
Now, I will tell you, Cloud County's bid was an open bid, and we got a winning bidder from Nashville that literally filed bankruptcy in the middle of the project. Well, not in the middle, but 2/3 of the way through the project, and it was a mess. And I'd like for you all not to go through that. I'd like for us not to go through that.
But you're saying you factored this into the pricing?
I have.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression it was $1 million or so on top of this.
No.
Well, I kinda
That's
get
where I was at.
No, No, I've got a maximum expenditure of $30 million, all costs, period, end of discussion.
I know you guys got like 2 minutes before you have to leave, but I'd like to say one thing before I leave here. Is one thing that I think this commission needs to think about, from what Larry said in this idea of how long it's gonna take us and when we're gonna start, we need to start thinking today. I know you're busy. We need to start thinking today about this parking. Something's gotta be done with parking. When they start tearing that parking lot, we're gonna eliminate 70 parking spots out here. So something's gotta be done with parking for the employees. We need to make that in our forethought in the next up and coming months.
Well, one of the things that we talked about was engineering a diagonal parking rather than parallel parking on the north and east side of the courthouse to give you all some additional parking, which will stand you in good stead forever, but at least it'll offset some of the loss, because we are gonna need a staging area somewhere on this site.
Basically, this whole west parking lot.
Yeah, whole west.
Basically.
But that's nine,
We got a
construction
church we
is
need to
9
get
months away,
sorted
so,
out.
of course, that'll be here tomorrow.
That's right, that's what
But
I'm saying.
we
We
got
can't keep putting it
We
off.
got some time to prepare.
Hopefully, we can get this church going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That would be
that's gonna be a
great
lot.
too. All right, I will reconvene your convenience and direction.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. 9:59. Did you print off instructions, or did you?
Yeah, this is in the green.
Oh, it's in the green pen?
Yeah.
Do we need to recess before we?
Yeah.
Do we need to recess to, see, it doesn't say that, but we need to recess our meeting
Well,
and then convey this.
okay, we can do that first if you want. So, we're gonna move to recess.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it should be in the 10 o'clock section.
Pardon?
It's,
It's in the miscellaneous.
yeah, that's right, 10 a.m.
You've already turned it off.
Okay.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
So move to recess the Board of County Commissioners.
Move to
Recess.
recess as Board of County Commissioners at 10 o'clock.
Can you call that?
Yeah, you can.
You can call
Okay,
it.
so now
As
recess.
chairman, you can call it.
Okay, so there's no motion to vote, no,
And then
no.
the next one will be the
Okay.
first one.
Okay. Move to convene as a Board of Canvassers to canvass the results of the August 2nd, 2022 primary election.
Also moved.
Don's moved,
All second.
Tim second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
And then you usually are a 5-member board, so we usually appoint someone, and I would recommend appointing Gwen Burke, registered deeds, as another elected official to canvass in the absence of Tom.
Also moved.
All second.
Photographer.
Bob's moved, Tim seconded, any discussion? Hear none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We're waiting on.
We're on the way.
She's coming, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass out these provisionals so we can go over that, start counting those and get those added to the appropriate totals. Okay, so, we kind of tried to summarize it to make it a little quicker. Get it over there, okay. So the first sheet's a summary sheet, and we tried to, if you look on the pages behind, there's like 3 or 4 pages, so we tried to summarize it a little bit for you instead of going through each and every single one. But if you look at number 1, there were 22 that we recommend should not be counted because the voter was not registered in Coffee County. And they'll fall under some of the red ones on the behind pages. You'll see the voter was not registered, failed to present voter ID, more not registered. So there's 22 of those. So do you want to go through every single one, or is the summary okay with this as the supporting back documentation?
The ones besides the ones that were registered, there were 3 people countywide that didn't have ID. 1 got it fixed, brought it in, 2 did not. So the 2 that didn't bring it in by now don't count.
Yeah.
There were 2 people who had moved within the county, voted provisional, but then didn't sign their envelope. And I've talked to both of them, and they both said, it's over.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't come in. I didn't have time to chase them down, or I might have. So those will not count. Those are the only ones, other than had a handful that were registered in other counties and a handful that weren't registered at all, which is, I would
And then
say.
number 2, we have registered voter moved within Coffee County and filed new voter registration application. 17 of those should count. 2 are missing signatures, and those should not be counted. And you'll find those under the green.
Yeah, those are
under
the 2 I was talking about.
Yeah. And then the third one is registered voter changed name due to marriage and filed new voter registration application. 9 of those should be counted, we recommend. For voter registered online via DMV just before the deadline, did not appear on poll pad, but is properly registered. We recommend all 9 should be counted. We did go over these with Wade, so we have had legal on that.
That's something that I'm gonna try to get fixed before the next one. Those people that register online right before the deadline, like on the 10th, 11th, 12th, we don't get them until after the deadline, and they won't let us backdate them, so it shows they weren't registered, but they were registered. So we pull them through the deadline, but then they don't show up in the system, and it creates a bunch of unnecessary work and frustration for them. So we're gonna try to fix that next time, but they all were registered properly.
And then the next one is voter did not present valid photo ID. We had
You know, we talked
one,
about those.
yeah, okay, you already did that. 6 voted ballot of wrong party. 1 should be fully counted. 2 were registered Democrat but voted Republican. Each ballot should be partially counted as to the questions only. So, the questions would have been on their ballot, but they can't vote the other Republican races, but they demanded to vote a Republican ballot.
The one
So,
to be counted was early here and checked in as unaffiliated, but before he voted, he said, well, I want to vote for people. So we signed him up to vote for people, canceled that out, and made him vote on paper. So we
And
got
then-
that addressed before it hit the bucket.
The next one was voted ballot for wrong precinct. 2 voters had moved, they went to the wrong polling place, they were given the wrong ballot for the wrong precinct. The ballots voted were identical to the correct ballot for all races except precinct committee and township clerk. So we recommend partially counting for all the other races and questions on that one. Number 8, voted replacement mail ballot, surrendered original ballot. We think both of the 2 should count. There were 2 of those. 9, requested mail ballot, voted in person, only voted once. We think 1 should count. 10 is address of registered voter had typo in the system, and we recommend that it should count. So, the total at the bottom, we had 71 ballots. There were provisionals, 26 we recommend not counting, 41 fully counting, and 4 partially counting.
No, I may have hit the wrong number and didn't add them right. That shows 39 fully counted, and you're showing 41.
I do not know. What do we got? We got 17.
I showed 17, 9, 9, 1, 1, 2, 1, and 1. That's 39.
6, 5, 26, 27.
Number 6, there's 2 that's only partially counted.
Yes.
I just counted 1 there, should have counted 3.
Well, no,
They're-
they're in the 4 that are partially counted on. If you just count the ones that are not counted, I know there are 26, because I just went through them and have them separated out in there.
I hadn't got the
And the not counted are the 22 that are not registered, the 2 that are missing signatures, and the 2 that didn't present a valid ID. So that's where you get 26 there, and then the 4 are the 2 that voted the wrong precinct and the 2 that voted the wrong party. So that's the 4, and that leaves the other 41 to be counted.
No, the numbers aren't adding up. Under number 2, you got 7.
17 should be counted, 2
Yeah.
should not.
And under 3, you got 9.
Twenty-six and another 9 is 35.
And number 4's got 9. Number 5's got 1 counted.
Yes,
Number 6 has got 1 counted.
yes.
Number 7's 0. Number 8's got 2 counted. Number 9's got 1 counted. Number 10's got 1 counted.
That's 41.
Sorry, I misadded 2. Totally apologize.
Okay, So, if you guys are in agreement, there's a motion for you to, fill in those numbers.
Very bottom, see what you're saying?
No, it'd be county election officer with approval of the county attorney presented 71 provisional ballots and recommend that.
41.
41 ballots.
41 ballots be fully counted. 4 be partially counted, and,
26.
26 be rejected. Do you know anybody?
That's the motion, right?
Correct.
Read the motion. Motion the county election officer, with the approval of the county attorney, present 71 provisional ballots, be recommended that 41 ballots be fully counted, 4 ballots be partially counted, and 26 ballots be rejected.
I'll make my motion.
Tim moved.
I'll second.
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oops, did I have duplicate in there? I do. Oops, I added that twice, Jesse, ignore the next one.
Okay, that's what
Yeah,
was
sorry.
kind of throwing me off.
Okay, so, one thing, before we get started, we'll go add these ballots to the other totals, and then
Okay.
I'll let you recess back to your meeting, but I wanted to go over one thing, on election night. We had a question, at the end of the night, well, it was about 8 o'clock, things had been going really smoothly, and I said to everybody in the office, I said, oh my gosh, I think we're gonna get out of here about 8:30, 8:45. The last polling place came in, and, I was reading everything in, and my USB stick, wasn't reading one of the machines. So we couldn't understand what was going on, and I was kind of like starting to panic at that moment, and, so I told one of the girls in the office, I said, we need to go to Gridley, we need to go and try to get the numbers off this machine, something's wrong. So we went back down there that night and went ahead and opened all the machines, closed them all down, got the same totals report off of it that they brought in that night, and tried to read it in, still had a problem. So I got on the phone with our software support with ES&S, and I said, what do? I can't get this to read in. I was starting to panic then, and so times it's like 9:15, 9:30, and they couldn't, at the time, I think I was dealing with a newer software specialist, and he was kind of trying to figure it out. He's like, I'm not really sure what to do. And so I knew I had the totals report, which is, it looks like one of these that comes off the machine. And so as time kept going, I finally just made a decision that I was going to take the totals off of this report, add them to our other report, and just handwrite them on for that night, because we had to get numbers to the Secretary of State's office. By this time, it's almost 11:15 at night. And I just made that decision on my own. It's not the pretty report I wanted to put out there, but I knew I had to get the numbers out there. So that's why I had handwritten that. But this is the little guy that failed. Luckily, we have a chip in the machine. We have the paper ballot backup. And so we were able then the next morning, after 2 hours, getting back on the phone with the software company, they said, it sounds like your stick failed, so the only way to get the results now would be to burn a new stick to run on the other DS200 counter and run all the paper ballots, those big cards that you get to put in the machine, run all those through that DS200 and get your totals. And that's how we were able to finally make our report look nice and pretty and repost it back out there. So, but the numbers were all accurate. We satisfied the Secretary of State. We were, how many counties hadn't reported? We were one of those.
Well, yeah,
I don't know,
and
20.
the frustration was that we had a printout of the numbers, but we just couldn't transfer them, because those are computers freestanding, independent, and the one here is, they're not hooked up to anything. It had to make the trip by that stick, and there was only one stick on the planet that would take the results from that machine. And that was it, and it was tested beforehand and worked just fine.
Yeah.
Seemed to have worked during the day, but it just wouldn't give us the numbers. It wouldn't give it to us where we could add it to the report and print it out nice. But we did have it printed out on the tape from the machine. So the numbers were never in question. Our ability to put it into a neat report was in question, and then by 10 o'clock the next morning, we were counting the paper ballots, and it matched exactly to the machine tape from that night. And so there wasn't ever any doubt of the count, but it was frustrating as all get out to not be able to put that. We had people waiting in the hall, people waiting at home. You know, they wanted those results almost as much as we did.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wanted them worse than I did. But anyway,
Just
so.
part of the challenge, Fred.
And it was
Well,
only that polling location.
If she had not said out loud that it was going well.
I should have never said that.
Yeah.
I should have never said
Because
that.
our people, we had a record
Yeah.
turnout for this. You know, we've gone from 29% to, or 20% to 29%, over 50%.
Yeah, it was
And that
29.
accounts for a lot of the provisionals too. You
It's
get
18.
people that aren't used to being out, they haven't paid attention to their records, and, but our board workers did a fantastic job, as they always do. And not without a few challenges here and there, but we didn't have any bad behavior that wasn't expected.
So if you want to recess now as a board of canvassers, you can do that, and then go back to
We'll
your
go
meeting,
count
and we'll
those.
go
Okay.
add the totals, and then we can go through the rest of the reporting.
We will recess as Board of Canvassers and resume our commission meeting.
Okay.
And if any of you have any questions individually ever about what's going on, come and see us.
Okay.
No, thank you.
You better than your job, you might want to become a commissioner. We'll call you when we need you then.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
Did, I don't know if everybody else left. Larry or,
Nothing, just take a quick break.
I can handle it quick.
Let's take a quick break. Figure out what we're gonna do.
10-minute break?
Sure. You start with good.
They're good.
Gets exciting, you know. Jeff, there you go. Good, how are you? I think we're back. We'll, Citizen State Bank, Walker Trimble. You're all in the 9 o'clock.
I don't have a lot to say, but just kind of what Joe was talking about earlier, you know, he pounded on the interest rate quite a bit. We never heard a word about what a finance charge would be. There's always a finance charge or an origination fee or something of that magnitude when you go to a bond. You know, the city of Burlington just did one too, for the generator. We can look back and kind of see where they're at on that. Bob made a good comment earlier about it's not just for the 50 people that work in the banks, it's for the other 10,000 people in the county too. And that's right. And that's why I think we ought to have a chance at half or greater than half of this, because I believe that we can beat their rate.
And I'm not denying that you guys, if there's any way possible we can get you in, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm all fine for it, but I'm not
And
going.
there's a difference between us taking the lease purchase and us purchasing the bonds from them. Because if we purchase the bonds from them, they're still getting the majority of it. We're coming in on the end. And we've got all 4 banks in here represented today. And you could have went to the county fair a month ago and all 4 of us were represented at that county fair. And other sponsorship opportunities we have here. I didn't see a Baird or a First Tennessee Bank sign or their sponsorship anywhere. So we're here, we're involved in the county, we want this to happen. The next thing I have is that, you know, that Joe had mentioned it's the language in that was up to 20 million. I went to the jail meeting here in Burlington and they said that every year they're looking at like 11% increase. That's why they wanted to get it done now. And now we're talking, you know, even a longer time before we get this thing done. So if it goes over budget, which we hope it doesn't, but if it does, are we gonna go look at doing 5 million more bonds? Or are you gonna come back to us banks if we're already in on this deal and say, hey, we need some more money, and we turn around and we do it? But it's gonna be difficult for us to do that if you've already bonded the other 20 million to them. So if you're looking to
cover up overages with cash, that's fine. But if you don't, you probably ought to try and include us in on some of it. That's really all I had, was that just give us an opportunity. And if we need to look at this, I mean, it'd be great if we could look at this 2 different ways. Look at us taking half of it, 10 of it, or look at us taking 15 of it. And they can still have their 2 million and over, whatever. But why don't you get bids or allow us to seal bid this thing a couple different ways to see what's best for all 10,000 people of the county?
I'm totally, it's competition. I'm totally, if it can be done, I'm for it. I mean, and splitting it, you know, giving a bigger piece of the pie, you know, so to speak, you know, or a piece of the pie, so.
And I think, if we were to bid this thing, like we're talking, both of us would need to put down and itemize out what our finance charges would be. Whether it's origination fees, bond fees, underwriting fees, whatever fees that we're gonna have associated with this, that needs to be put on there too, so we can see, so the commission can see a total finance charge on the whole thing, so there's nothing hidden anywhere.
I'm with you on that, Walter. If we can get the locals and banks in, I'm fine. But we, also, the way that was printed on the ballot, the resolution, we have to abide by that part of it.
Absolutely, and I think the language that he presented earlier was up to 20 million.
Right.
So if we can keep them in for the 5 and we can beat out, our rate will beat on a 15, then why wouldn't we do what's best for the county? Why don't we at least look at it? We were approached a year ago,
Yeah.
a little bit more, about getting a rate
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
I mean, we were asked to go to the dance and then left behind, because it was pretty well silent after that. So we're just asking for the opportunity, is what we're after.
And that's what I asked Joe. If it was even possible, if we could do 10, 10, and 10. 10 of our reserve, 10 with local, 10 with the others. And those are not set numbers.
No, and just,
But
you know,
those are
just,
if they can, things like that can be done. That's what I wanna know.
absolutely.
And maybe numbers if, and you know, like I say, throw out options. If we get 15, the interest is this. If we only get 10, the interest is this.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You
No, I
know,
just want us to look at all options and make sure that
finance fees.
we're doing the best, you guys are doing the best for your constituents,
Mhm.
you know, that's what you're elected for, so.
I'm totally good with it.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Brenda?
Yeah, I'll be quick. So I did come to you guys before the bond passed. So now that it did pass, you have to issue some in bonds. I understand that. That's why I asked, how much is that gonna be? 2 million, 5 million? That's your guys' decision. But we want to lease finance and with the bond finance. So you all need to make a decision up front what that's gonna be. Because we can't put ours together because we don't know what you wanna do. But because you put it out to the public as a bond, and that's what we have, you have to issue so much in a bond. And we and the other banks would like to know how much that is, so we can put together our numbers so we can be, you know, in the game. All right? And I don't know, how soon will you know that answer?
That's a fair question, but I don't have,
Okay.
I don't know
We
what the
don't have a
answer
fair
is for it.
answer.
Okay.
I mean, like I said earlier, I would do a 10, and then if we get 15, the interest rate on 10 is this, interest rate on 15 is this. You know, that way if you get 15, the bond goes 5, you know, see what the options are. I mean, that would be the kind of options I'd like to go towards as far as seeing what the interest rates would be on a $10 million lease deal or a $15 million lease.
Okay, because it'll make a difference, you know.
Sure will.
So, because you have 4 banks that want to go in on this project, so just keep that in mind. So, but I think you have to at least do the 2 million. Is that correct, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
But we also need to know from you guys
And I could have provided that earlier on.
where it is. It's, we need to know this, so we'll know this, so we'll know
Correct,
this, and then
correct.
we'll know this. It's,
So we can all-
it's not a.
Right.
It's not simple for anybody.
No.
Except maybe Joe.
No. So,
Yeah, I have a question on the timing for us to make a decision. if we use our 10 million up front, technically, we wouldn't need any money over that for 13 months.
And that's it.
But there's no
So-
way to wait. Time frame is now.
Well, that's what, I didn't know how soon they were wanting to issue these bonds.
So right now, we don't have an answer on that. To me, we need to move fairly quickly on what our decision is.
But if you issue the
To
bonds,
help you,
yeah, so I know how much you want to finance, but if you issue the bonds, it's my understanding you start paying interest on that, or you start paying. So, as with the banks, you would not, so, until you needed the money, so.
That was my thing, I didn't wanna have the bonds, 2 weeks from now and spend our 10 million up front, and they're sitting there incurring the interest for 13 months or
Correct.
10 months. That's a lot of money.
What I was thinking was our money, the bank, and then the bond.
And that might be a possibility. I mean, just let myself or one of the other bankers know how much we're looking at, so we know how much to plan for and structure and know what, to offer you all. So, but that's all I had.
So why couldn't we just say, give us some numbers for 10, give us the numbers for 15?
I think we can, but I mean, timeline's gonna be a lot of difference too. If we're looking at 13 months down the road, they're not gonna give you a number tomorrow for 13 months down the road.
Right, because rates
I
are
mean,
all.
the way the rates are going, and same as the bonds. I mean, they're
Of course.
going up another 3/4.
I have sat here and I have never been one that's in favor of, I was never in favor of the 10, because I felt like we were draining
Our
funds.
savings.
So even before we get to spending our 10, I'm not sure I would like to start spending somebody else's money and not put our 10 in if not necessary.
And that's completely.
well, the other side against that though, Bob, we're paying interest against something we don't need to be paying interest on.
Exactly.
And we got money sitting there drawing nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but not much.
Say a little.
So, to me, our 10 needs to come in there pretty quick.
But we're draining our reserves too.
Well, we got the reserves to work with,
So.
and that's the purpose of them.
So just let us know, okay? Because we want to do what's best for all the citizens of Coffee County. That's our
Joe,
intent as
how does the
well.
bond issue, how does the bond market look at, do we get a lower percentage interest if we offer 20 million out versus 10 or 5?
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm sure you can answer that, but is there much deviation in that?
No, I
The
mean,
more, the bigger that loan, the bigger that bond issue for them, does that bring in lower interest?
we are going,
Or does it?
we're going to have to get these bonds rated. So we go to the rating agencies and we ask them, okay, can you rate? It would probably be more favorable for us not to have debt outstanding of 10 million in the market at the time that we get the rating. Right now, I'm looking at, this is, Mr. Barnberg sent us some numbers over, based on a A rating, not a AA or AAA, but on A rating. The true interest cost was this is as of August 12th, so Friday was 3.35% on 20 million. So, and I'm almost certain that's tax exempt. So we're looking at, on a Friday's cost of 3.35%. Again, I don't know if it's all gonna be tax exempt or not. So long and short of it is, I think we don't wanna have debt out, incur current debt soon, right before we issue the bond, probably. But soon after that, we can issue the other dollar amount under a lease. With the caveat, I have to visit with the Attorney General, about this, because I think he's gonna look at the language and they have to approve the transcript. So I'm gonna have to make certain that the Attorney General is comfortable with the way we're going to proceed, because I've never done it that way. So I need to visit with him about that before I can come back.
The ballot language is what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I'll be back after I visit with the Attorney General to say, this is what is being proposed. Are you gonna have a problem approving the transcript, and then right after that, another lease purchase transcript? And we'll see what he has to say.
So I guess we're gonna have to wait to come back from that before we can make a decision on
Absolutely.
what we're gonna do, a 20 and a 10, or 20 and none, or whatever.
And I think we have to have Mr. Barnberg down here at that meeting, so he can, because I really have to stay within my lines, and maybe he can address this situation, because I'm not understanding it, and so it would be at that meeting I could have a resolve on the Attorney General's approval, I can get Mr. Barnberg to come down and talk about it further, so that we are comparing apples to apples.
Okay.
We don't wanna get our,
No, that's fine, that's why I questioned, that in the beginning, so, yes, if you
and
can get that in.
unfortunately, this stuff is what takes the longest to do. I mean, well, we're gonna go this, we're gonna take this fork in the road. Now we gotta analyze to see if we're not gonna get in trouble taking that fork.
Right, right.
And it appears to me we ought to be able to have enough information where we can make a final decision in the next 30 days. And I'm not trying to expedite it, because we gotta make sure it's done the best way.
I'll have an answer from the AGs within this week. I would imagine I have an answer.
So within
from the
30
AGs.
days, I think we ought to be able to, should be able to move forward.
Yeah.
I would like to have a full staff in here. as
Yeah, we
well.
need full staff too.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks for your input.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll call our 1020 Road and Bridge Supervisor, Jeff Byers.
I didn't even see Jeff
Available, Wade?
Jeff,
Are you available? Talk about the other stuff first, and then hop out for just a minute.
You gotta hop out for a second. Okay, I wanna go over a couple of things I was gonna put on the front of, savings, and then I will, request executive session.
Did you send us any information?
Yeah. It's in there.
I hope so.
It's under miscellaneous motions.
Somewhere I've seen it.
Should be a couple motions.
We'll go on that
Couple
direction.
motions and then.
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, okay.
Right behind that tax deal, we need to get an answer on too.
I'd like to report a couple of accidents that happened last week. One day after another. First one, we had a roller, couldn't get corrected in time, ran into this pickup, our roller. So that happened Wednesday.
Pickup just sitting.
It was set, yeah, it was a flag vehicle. Drug test performed, everything fine, that way.
The test was just on the roller guy, right?
Yes.
Wasn't on the-
Yes. Then we had a broom sideswiped by a vehicle, Thursday.
Our vehicle?
No, it was private taxpayer's vehicle, citizens. So that one, actually is a real accident report from the sheriff and drug test performed on our person as well. So,
That person, that individual called, Andrea and was wanting to speak with the commissioner of her district, their district.
okay.
And I don't know if you've visited with that individual since then, or,
I believe I have.
I do not have a problem calling, but.
I believe I have, so, well,
Did the damaged broom beyond repair? I mean,
not beyond repair, we did get an estimate so far.
Was it usable?
Almost, no. It's almost, $7,000 from what we can see.
But looking at that, it doesn't feel like there's any damage.
No, but those things rotate on a circle
I
just like
wondered if
a,
it wasn't
just like a
rotated.
blade, and that,
That
and that's
doesn't show
bent.
any damage.
Right, up underneath there where it's damaged, so I did rent a broom, had it here by that afternoon, Thursday afternoon, so.
And our insurance company will be working with their insurance company.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be, so, accidents. Like to tell you our chipper's back in service. We did find a part that we needed, a DEF pump. Greg somehow, he got a hold of one, and ours is running again after a year and a half's time, so that's
Until the next problem.
don't jinx this.
It's gonna happen, we got that on there.
We're just hanging on to Anderson counties for the time being. So, question, we have about 3,000 gallons of, used oil, in a used oil tank that we use when we drain, or when we do services. Do I need a disposal motion on that to take bids or to get rid of that?
You guys don't have an oil furnace in
No,
your
it's
shop?
gonna be, it's over
We
$50.
do, but this is way more.
So we're $50 value?
It's actually gonna cost us money to have it hauled off.
If it's over $50 value, yes, you'll need a disposal motion.
It's costing
It's
the
gonna
county
cost
to get
us
rid of
money.
it.
Hmm?
It's a waste, it's gonna cost
It's a
us to
waste.
get rid of it, there's
But
no
if the
value.
value of the oil is over $50, you gotta have a.
There's no value to it.
No value to it, it's gonna cost us.
It's gonna cost us money, we're gonna write out a check
I
to get rid of
understand
it.
that, I understand that, but it might be a weighing question because
Well, initially, we was thinking about a motion, and I seen it cost us like $100 the last time we done it. I'm like, well, I can do $100, and then I thought, well, we are disposing of, it is county property, it's waste. So maybe it'd just be easier if I let them go ahead and take informal bids, and then I'll put a motion together for next week just to cover that, because we're.
That covers everything.
Okay, all right, I really should have thought that through a little more before I asked possibly, but thought I would check. Yeah, then the motions, if you guys have any questions on the motions, I think that's all I had.
Now, did you have somebody quit in the office?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Last day will be, I'm not sure. September 2nd.
office coordinator, is that the title that you're looking for?
It is, and we studied that pretty hard with the job descriptions that we have, and, yeah, we feel like that's still accurate.
Is that what the individual was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Motion 2022-42, request authorization to advertise for and hire one full-time office coordinator.
I'll make the motion.
Tim moved. I'll second.
Go ahead.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You've talked about this pipe here about a month ago, I think, it was discussed, or Wayne did maybe.
Could be, this is just, at this time will be bring our stock back.
Motion 2022-43, request authorization to solicit formal bids for various culvert pipes and in sections for inventory at the county shop.
I'll move.
Bob's moved.
I'll second.
Tim second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That's all I have at this time. I would like to, initially, 8:20 was for executive session, but if Wade's still busy, I'd be glad to sit down and let some of these other folks go for a while.
I don't know where they went to. He's MIA again.
We can check it real quick.
How long you gonna be Sabian?
I won't be long.
We'll just go ahead and take Sabian.
Take Sabian and,
While Jeff's here.
well, Jeff's here, and then we can switch back over and do the executive.
Yeah. No, real quick, just wanted to give you an update as we're kind of getting into the on-call engineering work for the county. My plan, as I mentioned, is I actually was down here last week, back this week. I'll eventually get on like every other week. I'll come down in person and then present to you guys kind of what's going on. But Jeff and I continue to talk regularly. He calls when he needs assistance. Just a couple of things. What my plan is when I meet with Jeff and the staff is to just kind of get an update of what they got going on work-wise, so I can communicate that to you all. And then the things maybe looking ahead that they may need our services on your behalf. So a couple of things in talking to Ryan and Kenny and Jeff this morning. I do know they're finishing a 1-mile rebuild on Oxen Road this week. That's got some new culverts and some trees that had to be cut down. They've got another project, a 2-mile project on 28th Road from Fauna to Homestead that they're looking at getting easements right now from folks to make improvements there. I actually, because I've got some things we got going on with the county on behalf of your economic development work, I'll be down here both Tuesday and Wednesday, tomorrow and Wednesday, for some different things. But I'm probably going to take a little trip out with the guys to look at a couple of projects that are going, so get familiar with a little more of the hands-on work. I like to do that. And a little bit about my background. When I grew up working at Missouri DOT, I grew up on the maintenance side, so actually kind of like that kind of stuff, to be honest with you. So anyway, they wanted to show me a few projects, so probably this week I'll get out in the field. A couple things looking ahead that we will be helping the county with. Prior to us coming on board, there was a solicitation for qualifications for construction inspection services on a couple bridges for the county. That won't be built till next year. We received 2 proposals, and our firm is reviewing those on your behalf. And we'll take that through the KDOT selection process. There's a form, criteria, we'll follow that closely, and then we'll make a recommendation. I expect we'll have it to you next week, and probably, if I'm not here, we'll probably have Jeff bring that forward to you. But we'll have our documents in order for that. And then in talking to the staff too, just looking ahead a bit, one of the things we did do this past week also was there was a culvert pipe that your engineering folks are capable of doing some calculations on flows and things of that nature. So when they replace a pipe, we're making sure we're meeting the needs of the flow channel. We did review that, and things looked, the calcs were good. We did have a couple of recommendations to the county staff that we think they ought to keep in mind. There was some thought about possibly, in this case, because it's a very large pipe, maybe reducing it slightly in size. We're going to recommend against that, just at a minimum sticking with the existing, or in this case, they were looking for maybe a little more cover on the road, over the road. In that case, you could go with 2 pipes that side by side that would carry the same flow rate. So I'll let the crew take a look at that, make some decisions on that, and then we'll let that project proceed. And then as we get into fall, there will be more of our work will be in reviewing culvert calculations, some of your bigger pipes, and some of the culverts that are in the county. And then do a little bit of inspecting on some of the culverts that are looking at some snap-tight liners, just to make sure we're doing the right things there. So then one last item, because the staff is pretty busy, we are going to take, there's some work going on Old Highway 50, and there is some design work that needs to be done there, and in talking to the staff, they'd like us to kind of take over doing the cross-sections cutting of that. Just it's more of a software and a cumbersome issue and time-wise, so I'll get that communicated to our folks so we can begin to get that work done for you all. So that was my quick update, and I guess real quickly on the other work we're doing, we continue to work. We finally got the survey all complete on the trail between Burlington and New Strong, so we're breaking that survey down so we have a little more information. Once we get that mapped, I am going to set a meeting up with the Corps of Engineer director here, so we can begin to have more. We'd have something to show them. I hated to set up a meeting until we had something a little more tangible. So that will continue. And with respect to the other work, we were doing stormwater analysis for the county and for the cities. We did do a presentation to the working group, and we are following up with some individual meetings with some of the cities who have questions on some of the information we found. Although I think we had a good meeting with Waverly. They met in the field with our stormwater engineer, and that really allowed us to confirm what we were finding just in the data, that the areas they were seeing were very much what we were seeing. So we're going to do some of the same. Burlington has requested the same here, and we'll do that in the other communities as well. So it's a little bit more work than was in our scope, but I think it's the right thing to do. So I will kind of keep track of that and keep you informed, just so you know if we have to modify things a bit, you'll know what's going on. That's all I got.
Stephen, has anybody talked to you from the city of Leroy in the last month or 6 weeks?
No.
I was at the last city council meeting, Mrs. Jeff Wright, I think she's doing this somewhat on her own, putting a proposal together to redo all of Main Street, talking about $1.25 million, with 25% being supported by the city. The city didn't take any action, but with her moving ahead like that, I think you need to be, your firm needs to be a part of that
Okay.
discussion. And where that discussion went to that night, other than her presentation, that was as far as it went. But there's some work going on behind the scenes, maybe without your firm being involved.
Okay.
I might suggest that you touch base with Kim and maybe see, what's going on.
Okay.
Why would we just volunteer to be involved? The city would, if they wanted us, the city could come ask us. Not, we just always volunteer, we're gonna give you this, and give you this, and give you this. I say that let the people come ask us, and then it's our direction. It's not Don's direction as a commissioner to tell you to go do that. It's our direction as a commission.
I work at the pleasure of you guys, so.
As a commission,
as a
not as
commission, yeah.
individuals.
I'm not asking you as an individual, but I think there need to be some communication there.
I would say this, we're trying to encourage some communication in general for the other priorities, because they've not been at the meetings. So that, from the work we're trying to get accomplished, set aside Main Street, we would like a little more involvement from them, because we are producing things that someone ought to be reviewing from their community. So that's kind of on our list to reach out to them anyway, but it wasn't for Main Street, it would be for stormwater and things of that nature. But that's, again, we're hearing a little bit from Gridley, but we haven't really had Gridley at a lot of the meetings. So those two in particular are the ones that we kind of need to make sure we bring back into the fold, because otherwise we're gonna come up with recommendations if they're not gonna have any input on it. So.
Need some city involvement.
Yeah. And I will say, from experience, this typically happens in summertime. People are taking vacations, people are taking time off, meetings are getting moved around. Ours are not. We canceled one meeting only because there was not enough information to provide, because we were doing work. Again, there was no reason to have a meeting when we don't have an update for people. But I'm hopeful that as we get into the school year starting, we'll start to see more people come back to our committee meeting. So, anyway, that's quick and dirty.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bobby, how many minutes do you have? What do you need? You need an executive session as well.
10 minutes.
Okay. We'll go ahead and hit Jeff. I think he's in the hot seat today.
I have a question. I'm not gonna do this while Sabian's here and Jeff is here. Sabian mentioned the fact that he would be going out with the guys. Can Sabian, since our little new ruling, can Sabian actually ride in county vehicles? That's a Wade question.
I think he could probably ride, but
That's round table.
Okay.
That would be round table. Okay, well, I just wanted to,
We'll talk about it.
okay, that worked.
Okay.
I'm good following.
Can you follow? That's all right, we'll round table it.
So, I don't think it's an issue for him.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Well,
what
I would hope not.
as well. So.
Okay,
But the topic is still live,
okay,
along with several others.
okay.
Mr. Jeff?
Okay, I'd like to,
Thank you. Thank you, Sabian.
initially I was thinking, Tim, that if I could request a 15-minute executive session with the county commissioners and county attorney to discuss non-elected personnel.
We don't do 10 minutes, it never worked.
That's what I was thinking as I was sitting here. I don't think that's...
Is it
the reasoning,
attorney or
there's
is
gotta
it
be
counselor?
a little bit more.
It's non-elected personnel and it's employee performance is the.
Okay, I will move.
I guess, employee performance, disciplinary.
Okay, I'm trying to get this clock to work. I mean, it's fighting me here. Here, okay, you said 15 minutes.
second.
Bob's moved, Don seconded, 15-minute executive session, the board, Jeff Byer, county attorney, discuss non-elected personnel, 15 minutes, we go in at 10:58.
We'll vote on that.
Oh, any discussion, all in favor?
Aye. Favorite, yeah.
Rise and go.
No, we didn't, no voting today,
Yeah, we're just good.
off the election, election's over. My clock continued to mess up, so I hope we're on,
Yep, right on
right
time.
on time.
Right on time. You the official scorekeeper, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I just received a text message from somebody in my area. 1162 23rd Road. Wolf Creek's generator transformer.
Yes.
It said they will be cutting trees.
Yes.
To get the transformer through. Well, they did. Just that this morning, left big tree limbs in our yard, in the fields, and county right away.
Okay, what's the address?
1162 23rd Road, Kruger.
Okay. Well, I assured that company that they would not leave a mess. So I will do a follow-up.
Okay.
I will do a follow-up with that because I actually called Mr. Kruger to get kind of permission to go through there, because he kind of likes his trees.
Yeah.
And he did agree, but one thing was not to leave a mess. So
And they might go back once they get the generator.
Well,
moved.
we'll see. I don't know. I'll find out.
It come through this morning, but I think there's two generators.
There's
two sidetracked on
there's
at
two.
Levo.
There's two.
So maybe they're waiting to get.
Two now, and I'm not sure that another company isn't moving a couple more
Okay.
later. I haven't heard from that company, but
Like I said, it's just one of the messages I received this morning. Number two, I've had, and I don't know what your guys' mow policy is on paved roads, but I've had some complaints that like 50 highway fauna is real hard to see deer approaching.
our policy is perpetual during grass growing season, but that's one of the young men that changed jobs a couple weeks ago, that took another position, and we don't have that filled yet. So I know, actually, I think Ryan put somebody on that mower today. He said the same thing. It's getting pretty bad, so.
50 highway is real bad, and fauna is too. I mean,
So
all the facts, basically. I just didn't know what you
Right,
guys.
no,
did on
that's
paved
kind of
roads.
the area he was in when he switched jobs, and I know we don't have anybody hired for that position yet.
I mean,
I think Ryan's got somebody in mind.
I personally don't care about the gravel roads, but the paved
Right.
roads, I feel.
Right.
They ought to stay mowed up anyway.
Right.
Especially,
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That's just that's the only two things I had for you,
Okay.
so, I will let her know, I will let Mr. Kruger know that you're going to be checking them.
Yes, I will follow up on that, because I talked to him and her both. I think I was on speakerphone, and so that's nothing that I expect to be left.
Mhm.
But if it is, I give my word to be cleaned up, so if I've got to go clean it up and get a hold of the company, I will.
Okay.
hopefully they just want to get the generator moved through and then they'll go back and clean it.
That's kind of what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Or they'll tuck tail and run.
Well, I got a phone number, I'll go call it as soon as I get back.
You've got Kruger's phone number?
No, well, yeah, I've got it, but I've got, another company, I'll
Oh,
be
okay.
calling the moving company. Oh, crap, I didn't bring it with me. Had that check made up,
Oh, for the truck?
but that was only for discussion purposes if you guys wanted to pay for it or not. Still haven't looked at it. They sent pictures. Went over the pictures, talked to the sales rep quite a few times. Jesse the same way, so I don't know what your feeling is.
I looked at the pictures. I don't know the truck. I didn't order the truck. I didn't spec the truck. I looked at the truck, it's the right color, it's got tires, rims, all sorts of gadgets and gadgets. I don't know if that was coming out of Kenworth, or if that, or post coming out of Kenworth, all the gauges and the valves and buttons on the inside.
No, that's what happened, that's what we got, that's Henderson.
That's Henderson, okay, so, to me, I don't have a problem paying for the truck, and I sent it to Jeff, I said, Jeff, I am good with it, we've gotta get the rest of the board good with it, but I do understand that there was a bunch of increases through Kenworth that the county did not pay for. So I'm guessing they're probably zero profit on this truck, if not $5,000 or $10,000 in the hole.
That would be my guess.
They would like to get it off of their floor plan, so they're not paying interest on it. I turned it over to Jeff, if I'm good with it, he's good with it, and we bring it to the board and say either pay for it or don't.
Well, if you've seen the truck, as far as.
It looks like a blue truck to me.
So what's your recommendation?
I would say that Kenworth, in good faith, because they come to my office and wanted a price increase, and I flat said no, we're not paying a price increase, and this was
Months ago.
several months ago. That was this winter. I said no, and they held their gun. They held us at that price, even though they're trying to keep us as a customer. They're gonna. We've got.
Kenworth paying Henderson?
No, that's a total different deal.
We're looking, that's a truck then.
Just the truck, just the cab and chassis.
Okay.
It's just the truck alone.
If you think the truck is what we got, that's fine, and another deal, we can deal with Henderson then, right?
Right, and that's.
So we're two
that's-
separate deals.
Two separate deals,
Right.
yes. If it was FOB delivered bed on truck, it would be a different story. But where it was just FOB truck basically
Right.
to Henderson, Kenworth has fulfilled their obligation.
Right.
And, I mean, even though we have not seen the truck other than in pictures
Right.
and denied the increases, and I'm sure if there is something that is wrong, once we get the truck here, they get their hands on it, they see
They're not
something
gonna,
that
they're not
Kenworth,
gonna leave us high.
they're not gonna leave us hanging, unless we drag it out. Unless we drag it out, then they're gonna say, sorry, you know, so.
I think we'll see that truck within a week, but I think we need to get this taken care of.
I would.
Let me see if I can run that check down, I'll get it.
Okay.
You guys got
Sounds
about
like
30
it's-
minutes here,
sounds
you
like it's
suppose?
time to-
Yeah.
Sounds like it's time to move ahead on it.
And like I say, I put it back to Jeff, cause I didn't do the order, so.
Okay, I guess, take my motion, upon the recommendation of the interim county superintendent, to go ahead and authorize and direct the chairman to sign the check for the Kenworth truck,
To be paid out of.
to be paid out of what's coming out of.
I need to get a hold of Michelle, find out where that check's at. I apologize, I have too many things going on this morning, I failed to bring it.
It's already been set up to where that money's
Yeah, that
coming
was,
out of.
that was encumbered, yes, yes it
Yeah.
was, so I'm gonna have to hold
That
off on
sounds
this
like you
motion.
need to holler back at us.
Just send it back.
It'll have it on there.
Okay.
Sorry.
So on the motion,
I would just,
you withdraw?
no, I'm not gonna withdraw it, it's tabled for.
Table, it, okay, table motion.
All right, thank you, I'll find it.
Yeah. Bobby, can we hit on this MT network? I gotta leave at noon.
Yes.
Y'all can continue, there'll be enough for voters. I was contacted by Rob with MT Network. There is more money coming down the state level, sizable.
Yes.
Sizable funds, and I believe you know.
Yes, sir.
If you would like to.
I don't mind at all.
To spin on that a little bit, not spin on it, spin on it.
So there's some grant funding coming down from the state, and there is an application we can make, which would give us a project at Highway 50 and Waverly that would be to the home type project. I know we've talked about that. That's the reality of where we want to go. We've got good coverage in Coffee County because of what you guys have done so far. Our next step, if we just had a bunch of money thrown at us, is to actually go to the home.
I think that was discovered through our last general discussion with the commissioners. But, I mentioned also last week, the other project came in under budget. It was, you had, signed a contract for $550, it came in, it's gonna come in right around $350. We still have about another $50,000 to pay, but I don't know what the precise amount is, but we're gonna be on $200 under budget roughly. MT Networks, we have designed a project with MT Networks, to service a project in Waverly to the home and on Highway 50. Going over to Levi, actually headed to Levi. We can't get all the way there, but this will be a good start.
One home?
No, sir, about 200 homes. 200 homes in this grant project. Fiber to the home. Now, even though they run fiber to the homes, people don't have to take it, but it doesn't cost them at that point $20,000 to get fiber. They can just call and say, pay a service fee.
So this fiber is gonna run down the road, and then it's gonna be up to the individual. We're not gonna pay it to get it into your home.
Not literally, no sir, no sir.
Okay.
When I say to the home, I'm talking about stubbed at the driveway. So the grant piece is, there's a match, it's about 25%, we're talking about $150,000 that they want the commissioners to obligate for match, if they get the grant. They haven't applied yet, they're going to apply. So if the commission is willing to obligate, in lieu of coming under budget on the other, you already got the money sitting there. Remember, you pay for it out of the ARPA funds.
ARPA fund.
So that 150 is still there.
So we're putting 150 up and the grant's 450.
Probably gonna be more.
You said 25%.
Well, I'm overstating. It's close to like 17%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the grant's gonna be 5.5, 550,000 or so.
Yes, sir. And
It's
MT
bronze.
Networks is also eating a piece of it too, because they're banking on getting service, new customers. So they're
Putting, I think they're talking about, I mean, I'm not putting words in Rob's mouth, but I'm thinking he was talking about putting up like 400,000 or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
So it's a very sizable,
But shouldn't they be putting up some money? We've already put up over $2 million
and he is,
to
yeah.
MC Network.
Yeah,
I mean,
MC, yeah.
my gosh, how much are we gonna support one company?
Right, and he is, and I visited with him about that, and there's letter of support, not asking for any more money from the county, just asking the shortfall, internet deal coming in under budget, putting that money towards this if they get it. If they don't get it, then the money comes back to the county.
That's right.
But we've already matched, I mean, we've already got it put out there for it, and I do believe.
But then you got people you're giving us money for these people and these people. What about these people down here and these people down here?
That's true.
So where do you draw the line?
This is a hard one to do. I mean, it's impossible. Yeah, that's just like this other deal you dealt with this morning. It's tough.
So basically, we've got a letter of support from the county, from the county to MT Network. So MT can take it to the state. Citizens can put out the letter of support as well. But this is what I wanted to bring up in roundtable real quick. We're not in roundtable yet, but I know time's ticking. So Bobby was present, and I wanted him to. He knows more about it than I do.
Well, I want to think about it. I don't want to make a decision on it today.
Tim,
We'll find out a little bit more about it.
and have you heard anything about the loss of
Doug Vanderlinden?
Doug?
Yes, sir. Does the commissioners, have you heard?
I didn't know anything about it until I seen it on the interworld, so.
He's been battling cancer and he had a heart attack.
What's Brad's plans with that?
I don't know, I haven't heard anything.
Brad probably needs to be doing something with that, because he works hand in hand with Doug on that, so.
Yeah, I don't know who's gonna be.
Brad ought to have a recommendation or something for us.
So, and I don't think this has anything to do with the fiber board, to my knowledge.
No,
this is just MT Networks in the county,
Yes, sir.
so. Okay. I'm done. Now to you.
I'll be very, very quick. I'll ask for 15 minutes if we got it. The commissioners, myself, attorney doesn't need to be present. I'm not gonna ask for any action, but I would like to discuss with you land acquisition. 15 minutes.
15 minutes aboard and Bobby Skipper. So moved. Don's moved.
All second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We will go in at 11:31 for 15 minutes.
Jeff, you can just give that information to
I will. Actually, the check's in here somewhere.
Will.
Thanks, David.
Okay.
Are you gonna have anyone else?
Larry's gonna be coming back in about 5 minutes, but he can wait.
We can finish
do
this,
this.
really, if you want to.
You need Gwen?
I need Gwen. Can you call Gwen, 12:37, I think. So,
What timeline do you think?
timeline, we can do it as quickly as you want. I mean, I've got everything in black and white. 10 minutes, probably we could get it done.
Yep, we're ready. Bye. Heading there.
We're going to recess as a Board of County Commissioners.
We will recess as the Board of County Commissioners
At 11:48,
at 11:48.
and then a motion to reconvene.
Motion to reconvene as Board of Canvassers to canvass the results of August 2nd primary election. Don's moved.
All second.
Tim second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so, I'm gonna hand out the zero reports, you can flip through and make sure those are all zeros, and then if you guys would sign on those. Those were ran election night before any totals were ran in.
You gotta go through a single page.
You don't have to go through a page, just kind of flip through it, but the totals reflect here on the front too,
Okay.
so. So as I had trouble on election night, near the end of the night, I was having troubles today with the provisionals. We had, my program failed,
Oh, shoot.
so we had to improvise to hand count.
You were very good at doing all of that.
Are you rethinking your life right now?
Yeah. She does an excellent job on Excel and, yeah, getting all of that
I'm
figured
gonna have to
out.
have Brad help me get my
Mhm.
program back in order. Okay, and then this is our balance sheet we'll look at as we go through the tally sheet.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll start with, clerk's office. If you look at the last page, you can see the total checked in.
Okay.
Oops, one more.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's not it. That's Ridley. Sorry. Total checked in, 570.
570.
You can compare that to there,
564.
570.
Oh, sorry,
We have
570.
three
Oh, totals,
paper,
gotcha,
one
gotcha.
provisional.
Okay.
And then if you can sign off and pass that around.
Anywhere?
Yeah.
Or right here?
Right there.
Advance voting received back, is that what that is?
Yeah, that's, we had the paper ballot.
Right.
Initial,
You can initial or whatever. Well, you know what, I don't think I have that report. Let's go on with Kelly Hall. Let's do Kelly
Okay.
Hall. Would you go tell
Shows
Brad
one-
to give
shows
you the mail
155.
out paper?
Well, actually, don't have that one.
Hold up.
Okay.
I'm going to
We're gonna make, I gotta
No.
cover that one, I gotta get
But
rid
I
of
don't,
the advanced mail out.
Copy, because I sent you the dentist
Hey,
report
Town
out
Hall.
here, so I didn't have a copy yet, I was like, I need this in here, but I didn't want to spill it all over everything.
And we had to walk away.
Oh, yeah, walk away.
They checked in, but they walked away,
Oh, okay,
so,
okay.
so that's why, the difference there.
Got that over with,
We had that happen in a few places. I had to go out and get paper out of the machine because the card didn't ever, they put it in, they didn't vote anything, or if they did, they didn't go on to cast it, and then it was just stuck in the machine, and when we backed it out, it was blank.
I'll be there.
So that's what several of those are.
Grizzly.
Yeah, their counts were perfect. They had 309,
309, I'll be there.
What are you needing?
the mail out, roster, whole book thing.
Whole book?
Print out, yeah. And then there you go. There's also, yep, and I had to go clear those out. I was all over the county.
You was flying around.
There was 501 with the 2 walkaways, that was 489. We have Roy. 327 with the 1 walk away. People got confused, if you wanna know why. The question that came up first on the machine, they had to press the more button, and they would try to go next, and I guess that must have been confusing people, cause they wouldn't go on through and hit the more, and.
Yeah, and everybody, when I was there, they was like, oh, you gotta hit the more.
Yep, and we told them that in training, but.
So that, your trainers did good,
Yeah,
then.
we told them that.
Good.
Thanks, John, 431, there's, perfect also. All the poll workers did a fantastic job. You can't help a machine issue.
Technology.
Yeah.
Waverly had 1 walk away.
Yeah, made 371, checked in with 1 walk away.
371.
And then as soon as Brad gets this other one, we'll go on through the report. Okay, so here's the election night results of the Sharpie write-in that I had to post online, like I said, which was ugly, but I had no choice, I had to get the numbers out. And, it only affected, of course, the total page, and then, the US races, and then the Ridley races, or the precincts at Ridley. So, if you look at some of the other commission races, I didn't have to write on it because it didn't affect the precincts, but if you guys wanna initial that you've seen that, that's fine. The totals didn't change, just the looks of the report, the pretty report came out later.
I like the smell of those magic markers anyway.
Yeah. This is just, a precinct report, wait, no, this is a precinct, this is another one of our reports for election night, it's a more detailed election night report. So it would have been the next, that was with the next morning, this is the report we printed the next morning.
Oh, okay.
So.
Reports after reports after reports.
Yeah. Once everything's read in, it's all. Okay, this was, as you see on your piece of paper here, we had 12 hand counts, that's what this tally sheet was.
Okay.
So you guys can just sign the back
Okay.
somewhere or at the bottom. And that's what those are, there, those 12.
What percentage did you have vote?
51%.
51.
And in
So,
2000,
well, you're 47.
well, yeah, this was before, that's, that was election night, that's before the 12 and the provisionals and everything.
Oh, made it up to,
51%.
Wow. That's great.
In 2018, there were 29%, so.
You know, on the walkways, we accept this, What's the difference between having a voter check in but didn't vote? To me, that's a.
Well, it kind of is the same thing too, yeah.
But we're counting.
No, we're not counting
Not
that,
counting
we're
that,
taking it
okay.
away. I should have put walk away on that, I guess.
And I'm not trying to.
Yeah. And then today, here's the provisional, like I said, I had to improvise, we marked up what they could not count down here, we tallied on here, so this is the
Okay.
tally sheet you guys can
Okay.
sign, and then these are the other two that were the questions only.
Okay. We don't sign, do we sign these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the two single partial question
Okay.
only counts.
Yep, yep.
See, on this report, it says voter turnout total of 64.12%. This is the, this was before, this is what I printed election night.
Well, with your, you wouldn't have had that much of a difference with your ones you did walk away.
53% is what this report says with all the, with everything in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the official results here, so these are just final tallies.
Sign off on these?
Yeah.
Is that what we?
Yep.
She needs to get a stamp, yes,
She's got a stamp.
Well, I want you guys to look at them,
Signing off
you
on
can see 39.
39.50.
Wait, where's your total? 32.82, that's with everything else added
Uh-huh.
in. Your, extra 41, 44, 45, with those partial count for ballot.
Wow, there's a difference between Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Don't have anything to say anymore apparently. Huh, that's interesting.
And these are by precinct report.
Mm-hmm. Was there a lot of changes?
No.
As, well, that'll be a question for another day.
Okay.
Party changes.
Yeah, there were some. But then we had a lot that were nonpartisan that chose to stay nonpartisan and just vote the two questions.
Good questions. Mm-hmm. Do you need the sheet back?
I think I can back it down.
Interesting.
Yes.
And I just have that one other report for Brad to bring
Oh,
in.
yeah, waiting on it.
But he should be coming here anytime. Oh.
It's all.
Oh, thanks.
I tried to.
That's good, you did good.
Yay, Tim.
Organizer.
Yes, good job.
I know what a pain that is.
Let me check on that report and then we're.
Oh, okay.
So when he came out, he was gonna come on the courthouse general.
Courthouse general.
Public works equipment.
Okay.
He wanted to see the other.
Work session, zoning regulations. They're gonna be working on the zoning side, so. Mhm. Yeah, I got a letter in the mail from her. The COF clients.
Okay, and then on that report we just had, there were 155. This shows 152, but there's 2 in suspense. That would be 154. And then we had to manually generate 1 because it wouldn't go through, so there
The
would be
2, and I've just
155.
logged those. Those were those 2 that were replacement ballots that we approved counting. The one difference is I had, the machine would not let me generate one there was a COF client that had moved from one of their facilities to the other, and it would not let me generate a request for her ballot, so I had to go through and override that and generate the ballot request manually, and got that ballot issued to that COF. But there are times when you're just pounding your head against it.
Yeah.
And for sure. But those mail things,
Okay.
we end up knowing them all.
That's all I have. Do you guys have any questions for me as far as election or anything
It
else?
sounded like the day went pretty good, other than one.
It did.
Appreciate everything your
Yeah.
office, you and your office took care of.
We
Now you gotta
walked-
gear up for November.
Oh, there's
Well,
one last thing I
we
forgot
think that'll
to
go
say.
smoother.
Before you quit here, we had to do a ballot audit. We have to do that after the election, just to make sure that everything's checking out okay. The race, what we had to audit was the constitutional amendment, United States Senate, Republican, State Treasurer, Republican, Kansas House District 76, Republican, and County Commissioner number 5, Republican. So, this was all of the paperwork that we sent to the Secretary of State's office. Everything checked out perfectly. So, this is this was our results we recorded unofficially, and this was our audit.
I'll be
So
darned.
you can flip through those and see those.
Nice.
And they had us count they had us count all the votes in that first precinct, Ward 1.
We had a couple precincts here we drew out last week. So.
Yeah, and then we counted the state treasurer's race in 2 additional precincts, and those worked out. There's a reason, the main reason for those isn't really a recount, it's to make sure that the machine is tabulating
Yeah.
the way it's supposed to, and you go through and hand count those votes and make sure. If you watch the news, you'll see Cherokee County did that ballot audit, and they were shocked to find that their tabulating machine has been programmed wrong by the vendor.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
why
And it reversed their county commissioner race that they thought had been decided. And because of that,
Sign anything here?
of course,
Yeah,
they're
probably.
just decided that they were going to hand count everything over the
Oh, my
weekend.
gosh.
So they just went back to
What a
went back to
mess.
paper and spent the weekend counting them. I haven't heard how it got through, but there's a reason for that ballot, and it's just as a random check that's thrown in there to make sure that that thing.
Wow.
And that's also why Angie does the programming here instead of trusting. That was not our vendor involved, but it was a vendor involved that apparently did it wrong. And
Well, I already had an instance years ago when we first got our electronic machines, and they were doing the election building and the software and stuff, and so we were down to like just a few days away and overnighting back and forth election stuff, and so I was starting to sweat, thinking we weren't gonna have it back in time. And I said, no more, I'm not doing that ever again, I'll do my own.
Right, and you always have it done way ahead of time.
Yeah, so.
did you tell them about the recount thing that's floating around?
Oh, yeah, there's a chance we may have a recount on the constitutional amendment. It's all up in the air right now, but,
Oh, my goodness.
if we.
Recount statewide?
Yep.
Or
Yes,
just for-
statewide.
Oh, wow.
We received an email Friday night saying that there had been a
I have not heard
request
that.
made to recount the constitutional amendment statewide, but there was an issue of whether the bond was,
You already did.
but they ordered us to begin work on it, but not counting. So I was back in here Saturday working on that, getting boards set up to count starting tomorrow, because we would have to be done by Wednesday
Okay,
at 5.
good.
If that were to happen, we would have to reconvene the Board of Canvassers to approve the results of that count.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
So,
Are you gonna have to recount the treasurers,
no,
vote?
we don't.
no,
You
that,
don't participate in that?
that
They-
one, we were contacted by them and we sent them the report and tallies and everything from our ballot audit where we counted 3 of our precincts. and they were satisfied that it wasn't gonna be worth their while to come here. The initial report was that they requested 53 counties to recount, and I think they're narrowing that down. They've been given a deadline of 5 o'clock today. We could theoretically jump back on that list, but I don't think so, because we gave both of the campaigns everything that we had, and they were satisfied, I think, that they weren't gonna find a change in the votes here. The constitutional amendment thing, I don't know what's happening there exactly, other than we're gonna be in a real time pinch if that does come through. They're talking about having to put up over $200,000 as a bond, which they would forfeit unless the thing is overturned. And it's a 60-40 pretty much. I can't see it's gonna get overturned many places. There may be some counties where it's close, where it might swing. And there are other counties, like when you're doing your canvass today, they're also canvassing Sedgwick, Shawnee, and Johnson County. And the numbers, they were saying there was like 18,000 provisional ballots floating around out there. But I think it was a $190,000 vote margin in that race, so it doesn't look like that's going that way, so they'd be spending that $250,000 almost on something, but I don't know.
So if by chance we have to call you back, I don't know if it'd be Thursday or...
We would have to be done by Wednesday at 5, they said, with the counting, but I don't know if that includes the re-canvassing.
So...
That's a little vague. The whole thing is a little vague, because it seems like they should have had to put up the bond by 5 o'clock Friday. It's a weird law, because the deadline for requesting the recount was before a dozen counties had even counted. And our big ones were canvassing today, or 3 of the big ones, with Shawnee and Sedgwick and Johnson. They hadn't even counted yet, and they were being asked to recount. But it's a quirk in that law when the deadline was. Anyways, we will let you know as soon as we know. If we do have to recount it, we'll have to have a board of canvassers to report it to, and it would have to be approved, and there'll be a bunch of ladies in a bad mood up here. But we'll do whatever we have to do.
Right on. All right. Move to adjourn the canvas.
Move to certify.
Oh.
Right above it.
Oh, move to certify the results of the canvas board. Also moved. Don moved.
All second.
Tim second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Move to adjourn canvas board at 12:09 p.m.
Also, about 12:09
Hey.
p.m.
12:09
PM.
PM.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ann. We
I
vote.
hope we're not back.
Don moved.
Don moved.
Second.
Okay, Jesse.
Any
You want to
discussion?
second something?
I'll second it.
Oh,
Okay,
she seconded, Gwen seconded.
When
Any
it's on,
discussion on, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We want to get you involved.
Call back the meeting, call the commission meeting back to order at 12:10.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Okay.
Thank you, Gwen.
Sure.
I know,
There we go. Are you keeping this one? Yes. Okay.
I know Larry's coming back. Let me get these checks signed, and I've got the gift.
I will, while you're here, I will move that upon the recommendation, the motion I had earlier, what was that motion, recommendation of the,
Based upon the recommendation of the interim road and bridge superintendent to approve for the purchase of Kenworth truck.
and the funds to come from courthouse general public works equipment.
You want a second?
All second.
Bob's moved, Tim seconded. Any discussion on the Kenworth truck?
And authorize direct chairman to sign that check.
Authorized director chairman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Good, thanks, Larry. Sign the check.
Go ahead, you can listen, you're gonna have to leave pretty quick.
Okay, real quick. I wanted to continue toward a point of conclusion, the avenue of procuring and constructing this through a construction manager at risk, okay? There's two types of CM services. One is agency CM, in which they play project manager, and you all are at risk for the subcontractors, which has never worked well, although some states still require that for public procurement. Kansas does not, and allows the second, and in our opinion, the more effective route, which is CM at risk. The CM carries the risk for the performance of the construction of the project in its totality. You with me? So they'll furnish a bid bond, they'll furnish a labor and material payment and performance bond, and all the insurance and so forth necessary. Okay? What I would like your permission to do, real quick, is to start working on the documents that Coffee County can issue in order to get that ball rolling, because it's going to take several weeks. And and we've done this so many times before. We would like to help develop the RFP for construction management for Coffee County's project, setting out the two phases, the time, you know, everything that someone would want to know. But remember, the first step will be an RFQ, where you all will be able to respond and compare qualifications, capacity, track record, references, location, capacity, I mean, all the above. And then you'll shortlist them down to 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever your choice is. And then we'll have them then propose their fees, their general conditions, their timelines, and so forth for your actual selection. Can I get that started?
It's part of the process.
Part of the
I mean, part of the
I think
process.
so.
I would think sooner the better.
Yes, sir. And that way, because I've got their pre-construction services starting, I think in month 4 of this, to stay on track. So the sooner we get that started, the better. Frankly, we're already getting calls from firms that are interested in that.
They watch the news.
Yeah.
They watch the- I've got the jet people. I'll turn it over to Bob. Go ahead, Jim.
All right.
Sorry, I got
All
it.
you have for us?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Okay, I will be submitting a contract to you all for our services, but I do have to tell you just real quick, I was surprised to go back. I don't know if it was this man's prescience or what, and there's a second part of my feasibility study contract with you all that sets out all the terms and conditions if and when the project proceeded. So I'll talk to your county attorney about whether anything additionally is even needed. But that was signed on July 1st, 2020. God, does that seem like forever ago?
2 years.
Yep. And anyhow, so if nothing further is needed, we're good to go. And so,
Proceed forward.
all right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Look forward to the opportunity to work with you, Larry.
Same here, gentlemen, thank you.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it. End of our agenda. We go to roundtable. Andrea, we're gonna start with you today. You have anything for us?
No, just trying to kind of catch up on everything, to see if anyone had anything for me while I've been gone that I need to be aware of, or anything.
Don?
The only thing I might just give a very, very brief update. Wade Willie and myself met in Iowa last Wednesday or Thursday night. Anderson County, Les McGee was there, and David Brock, and Julie from Anderson County, and 2 people from Allen County, wanting the 5 counties to go together, that the electric line that's going from Wolf Creek to southwest Missouri, wanting to kind of pool our resources, or maybe not resources together, but pool our ideas together on that transmission line. I didn't realize those towers were gonna be 150 feet in the air, but, trying to put something together that, would give some guidance on how close those lines could be to a residency. And Crawford County and Bourbon County, neither one was there that day, 3 other counties. The next meeting set up for September the 12th, and they thought maybe the next 90 days would be try to put something together. If it was the wishes of the 5 counties, rather than counties go individually and present something, the 5 counties pool their ideas and their thoughts. And Wade was there that night. I don't know whether Wade's got anything to add to it or not, but their next meeting they propose will be September the 12th there in Iowa. So,
That's a good summary. I mean, I think the idea is to see if something can be done on the zoning side to protect landowners from these high-power transmission lines encroaching on people's property. So if that can be done, I think that's the goal of the counties getting together.
they were a little bit disturbed, or the Anderson County people were, because Crawford, they understand Crawford doesn't have any zoning at all. But, so whether Crawford or Bourbon will participate in this, and where it goes to, we don't know. But they probably need to try to set some perimeters. Their thought was to keep the transmission line 2,000 feet from any residency, and going in a straight line down through there, that's gonna be my thought, that'd be impossible. Even maybe 1,000 feet from a residency might even be a big issue. But, we just have to see what ideas they come up with, and whether KCC, my understanding is, Wade, KCC don't even have to listen, don't even have to make any recommendations. But hopefully they would hear the voice of the counties.
Something's happening with KCC on August 26th, and I don't remember what it is. I think that's where they are issuing their order in relation to the next era request. I've not been paying exact attention to that because there's been so many things going on, but with the KCC website, you go into that application, there's a whole list of documents that have been submitted with the KCC for their consideration, going back and forth. Some landowners who have opposed the request, so on and so forth. So, I mean, that's the date. Then, between now and then, if somebody has any input or feedback on what they'd like to see happen, if anything, they probably need to contact their commissioner and make their position known. And we'll wait and see what happens at the next meeting, but that's what I recall from the meeting.
Jim, you have anything?
No, other than the church, how we doing on it?
I think the
26th was
yep, bids are due by the 26th. I think we'll see, the asbestos mitigation probably through a curveball, but I mean, it has to be done, so we'll know by the 26th.
Casey, do you have anything?
There was the one tax abatement in the package that needs.
We didn't understand that completely.
We needed Connie to come in and explain that.
Okay, I can go grab her.
Okay.
Even though it was only $61.88 dollar-wise, there wasn't any exclamation really.
You want Connie?
Whoever they send down.
Whoever
Whoever they send down. Okay, Wade, you wanna go ahead and get started? Or? I'm sure you have something for Roundtable.
I think anything that I have at this point, I mean, probably needs to wait until we have a full board.
Okay.
It's not anything that is immediate and pressing. I would have an executive session request, but I think with the time and what's happening next week, it's fine.
Okay, I don't have anything. We'll wait for Connie and then we'll wait for an explanation on this abatement and see what's going on.
Okay, yeah. And a new page one.
You have that abatement?
we need to take action on that.
You wanna hand that to Bob?
Don't you handle the pool leave?
And that is the one person that had been asking to make sure it was still active, so yeah.
But don't you handle it?
Yep.
That's
Okay.
it.
So as long as it was okay with.
It's still just the way it's always been.
Yes, yeah.
She was doing some checking and then she would be right back.
Meetings are, those all on the state. The three is in the book, The email we received for the people going to the meetings,
Sure that is.
we received 3 of them, and here there's 5, so, but they're all in state.
We need to approve these.
I don't think we approve, I think we just, if we object, I'm not sure we ever voted on them.
I would suggest while you're in maybe a pause moment, that you look at the calendar and you get, the municipal advisor on the agenda, so that issue can be, time is of the essence, so get, what's his name, Greg Vanden, I forget what his last name is.
I
Municipal
thought
advisor.
Joe was going to do that.
Well, I don't know if we picked a date. I think you need to pick a date, maybe as early as next week or 2 weeks down the road, and at least try to get it to where somebody contacts him, I can contact him and get him on the agenda, because if he's not on the agenda,
Oh, I really thought Joe was gonna do that for next week. But would you follow up on it?
I'll follow up on it.
Okay, thank you.
Wait on the paid period and the time clock.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to get some paperwork in front of us, and hopefully when we have a full board in the next week or two?
I think my understanding is, and I don't wanna speak for Angie, but she was working on getting some options to present to the board regarding, demos for software. One of them, seeing what CIC can do, seeing if she can get something from PeopleSoft and some of the other, payroll software companies. That was my understanding.
We get the budget hearing next week.
Okay, so Stella is the one that did that, abatement, and she's at lunch, so we can hold it until next week.
Okay.
I'll just let you take care of that one. That's the original, isn't it?
Okay, so the original, give it back to
Yeah, and I
Steve
can take that one
Okay.
back.
Okay, does anybody have anything else?
Thank you.
If not, we will adjourn.
We still got 3.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Don's old enough to show here.
I think I'm actually a holdout.
Yeah, you will be in just a minute.
There's only 5 or 6 deals in here to sign. This is Ken's deal.
Wait on the, Christina. When did she come on board? Has it been a year?
I'd have to go back and look.
I think we need to get a move on some of that stuff.
Oh, what's that on, Tim?
HR, what her recommendation?
How quick do we need to touch base on our new proposed handbook? Have you had an opportunity to review this, Wade?
I have, I think you need to have a full board here, and then to
Absolutely.
put it on the agenda and go over it, and
Thank you.
have a discussion about it.
There's 2 pages, and I mentioned to Andrew, there's 2 pages in there, page 22 and 23. It's got a lot of highlights, but it's a dark enough highlights, you gotta squint your eyes to read it, so I've asked Andrew to give us those 2 pages, so.
I mean, pick a time on the agenda, the next, you don't wanna do it next week, because you have the budget, so.
Week after that.
That's the end of the month, which we don't wanna put, I mean, can't be putting it off either.
We gonna check the vouchers on the 29th?
Yes.
Yes.
That's for the 29th, next Monday.
No.
We'll be here.
Monday. 22nd's next Monday, huh?
Yeah, it'll be
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? If not, we'll adjourn at 12:20. No, 1 or 7? 7.
7.
Okay.
I'll just stop by and get it sometime, no big hurry.
Bob, take it.
Okay.
Go ahead and take